What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of the Rise and Rush podcast. I am your host, AJB, alongside Sir Angry John for yet another football Sunday on this channel, another Rise and Rush podcast episode. We got some games to preview today. We got the usual betting advice. We got the usual fantasy advice, answering the fan questions and all that sort of good stuff. But I got to pass it to my man, John, first. John, how's everything?
I've been doing good, man. Can't complain. Ready for football Sunday, sort of. I mean, my Jets are on a bye. And Notre Dame was on a bye too. So weird for college and NFL. No, both my teams on a bye. So bit of a weird week. So I've been able to watch without rooting for anyone. For the most part, I'll root against some teams, but nevertheless, we have a lot of games, including Alex's G-Men home today against those Washington Commanders, but we got some other games to preview. I got my best bets for y'all. I'll ask you guys, anyone with the fantasy questions, I'm here to help. So let's get it started, right, Alex?
Yeah, yes, sir. So Luka is actually at the Commanders game against the New York Football Giants today.
This is his. I didn't mean to cut you off. This is his fourth game, right? Oh, third. Okay.
Yeah, so that's his third game. Hopefully, I'll get as many games as he does. Because there's the Jets game obviously next week, which I will be at, and we're gonna have a lot of. Either way, we might cancel out one of the shows for next week. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be this one because
okay.
As I said, it's not official, but you guys have the game stream, and also you have the call-in show, which I will be attending, of course. What's up to Almighty in the chat? Remember, folks, to hit the like button, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Share out, too. Again, fantasy advice, betting advice, game previews. That's what we do here on the Rise and Rush podcast. So I'm going to pull up a graphic. When Brian comes in, he'll come in and put in his little.
Yeah, where is that clown being late?
Yeah, he's bad take Brian, but he's late Brian today.
Clown.
But well, the first game on the docket, John lately has been sticking to a primetime aura. And I really like this game because it was close a couple of years ago when these two teams played. John, if you want to get us started on our first game preview.
Yeah, of course. Game I chose to preview this week for y'all. Sunday night football game. So, yes, this one's a Sunday, unlike last week. But nevertheless, Sunday night football, Eagles, Dolphins. Boy, this is such a... This might be possibly the game of the year already, just because of how hyped both these teams are coming in. Both 5-1 right now, and obviously Dolphins riding high right now. Eagles coming off a loss to my New York Jets, their only loss of the season. So we get started. Just some of the team stats. Miami, in terms of their offense, Alex, first in everything. First in passing, first in rushing, first in points scored. So it seems
that's what happens when you score 70 points a game.
Right.
70 points in one game, particularly against Sean Payton's Broncos.
Right. And so maybe it's a little overinflated, but it's not like they don't score in other games. They still could put up a good 28, 30 points in other games as they have. In terms of their defense, Dolphins, middle of the pack defense, 19th against the pass, 20th against the rush, 15th scoring defense, so average to below average-ish numbers. And you take a look at the Eagles side, passing offense, 9th, rushing offense, 2nd, points scored, 5th, and then you have passing defense 20th, rushing 2nd, and then points 20th as well. So, nevertheless, before we break down, some of the position battles and some of the other stuff, some of the top matchups I have, I think it's going to be very important. These Dolphins receivers against the Eagles secondary, which I'll get into, and then also this interior offensive line against the Eagles interior defensive line, which I will also get into. But before we get into more position battles and notes, I did want to point out some of the notes that I had for this game. Let me just pull up some of the depth charts for the inactives, unless you have them.
Yeah, I actually have the inactives up.
All right.
So The two inactives for the Eagles, it is the Reed Blankenship and Bradley Roby.
Hmm.
They list him with a shoulder injury. I think they picked him up, about 2 weeks ago almost?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Lane Johnson had a full turnaround, which is a good thing because Lane Johnson is probably the best right tackle in football, maybe outside Ryan Ramczyk.
He's out for a few weeks.
Who?
Isn't it Lane Johnson? Or
No, he's gonna play.
oh, he's gonna play. Wow, original reports had him as like missing like some time actually, but never
Yeah,
mind.
hence the quick turnaround.
Never
And
mind.
then you go to the Dolphin side of things. Jalen Ramsey's out, but he's designated. He's coming back really quickly. Xavier Howard's questionable.
Hmm.
Connor Williams questionable. Nick Needham questionable. Fullback Alec Ingold questionable, and that's pretty much all the game designations.
All right, so you have those inactives. I'm sure we'll get more later in the afternoon because of how late this game is. Obviously, at 8:20. But Alex, I wanted to break down each team just a little bit.
Okay.
Dolphins, right? You know, this is a team it's not like others in the past. The Dolphins have been kind of this mediocre franchise, right? But hot start 5-1, and I got to give this general manager a lot of credit because
Chris
not.
Greer, I think his name is.
I'm sorry.
Chris Greer, I think
Yeah,
his
Chris
name
Greer.
is.
Yes. I got to give him a lot of credit because not only has he's hit on some major positions and some stars, but I really like how he's built this team with depth. We talk about like the star wide receivers they have, obviously Hill, Waddle, but they have a lot of depth behind that. Going out and signing Braxton Berrios, going to get Robbie Chosen, trading for Chase Claypool, getting Cedric Wilson Jr. All guys that are formidable, all guys that are capable of playing. I even think Chase Claypool was inactive last week, so that just shows you how much depth they really do have. Even at running back, they lost the rookie Devon Achane, but they still got plenty of depth there. I mean, Raheem Mostert has been one of the better
I
running
believe
backs.
Jeff Wilson is active.
Jeff Wilson is active today, and even Salvin Ahmed is another guy who they can use as another running back, probably in the third stringer if he is active today. And then you also look, this defensive line with Davis, Sealer, and Wilkins, all very, I think they're all underrated players. I think it's one of the better front threes. Well, I mean, they have three defensive linemen, but I think it's one of the better ones in football. But they still got plenty of depth. Deshaun Hand, guy that I like as a rotational guy. But and then you talk about some of the injuries they've had at corner with Ramsey and Howard, but they've done a really good job there as well. Cam Smith has stepped in at times, and Eli Apple as well. Even though a lot of people like to make fun of Eli Apple, but he's played very solid in my opinion. And the safety Javon Holland has been one of the best safeties in football, probably to this day. I mean, he's been a very impact player for the Dolphins. And then obviously the biggest health concern that this team had coming into the year was Tua, and thank God they've been able to keep him upright, and we'll get into that in a sec. But to not only do that, but also go get a backup quarterback and Mike White, so for when they do blow out teams and they don't even need to use Tua just to
I
protect him from
mean,
injury.
I know that you probably, yeah, I was about to say, like, the injury part is, like, the biggest thing because
Hmm.
who'd they have let I'm trying to
Scott,
think who they had.
it was
Bridgewater they had as the backup.
Bridgewater, but then remember he
He
got
got
hurt
hurt
too,
against the
and
Jets, and they
they
went to Skylar Thompson, and that
they
was
had,
a complete crap show,
yeah,
so
they had to start him, which really was not. I mean, he played as well as he could for a third stringer,
right.
but what was he? Was he a seventh round pick last year?
Yeah, he was
If
a
I'm not
late
mistaken.
round pick,
Late.
but,
I think I know
I
he. Yeah.
mean, Mike White kinda if you look at his career, he kinda does have an injury history, but it's nowhere to the near length of, Teddy Bridgewater, so
Hmm. No,
and
yeah, of course.
obviously, you better off stealing from your divisional rival, why not?
I mean, yeah, that shoot at the face of me. I know, um, but nevertheless, they have a lot of positions of strength, so it really is good because they can look at it right as as something they could either use. It's one of those good problems to have. Is like, hey, the trade deadline's coming up. We might be able to get some extra help, whether that be two positions of need, which I don't think it's like a crazy week, but I think they could get a little better. The linebacker spot for the Dolphins and the offensive line in terms of maybe not starters, but some depth there. I think they could use a bit, just because I know they've had some injuries on the offensive line. Obviously, you mentioned Connor Williams is questionable, but also they could use some depth at linebacker. Obviously, they have David Long Jr. and Jerome Baker. Andrew Van Ginkel's not bad. He's a rotational guy, but they could use some inside linebacker depth, in my opinion, which, again, good problem to have. It's not like one of those things where it's like, the team is in shambles. They have serviceable players. And sometimes you need guys that are not superstars, but good role players and know their role to help win a Super Bowl or help, go on a deep playoff run. And, and so that's my point with a lot of depth they have. Also, now looking into this game, my biggest key for them, and this is because, I watched that full Jets Eagles game last week. They need to apply pressure on Jalen Hurts. He's already thrown more picks this year than all of last year. He's at 7 picks now, had 6 all of last year. So obviously the key to getting him is get Jalen Hurts, get him under pressure, send some blitzes toward his way, because it has been quite I don't want to say Hurts has been awful, but it definitely hasn't been this.
He's vulnerable to pressure.
Mhm,
Not that any other quarterback isn't vulnerable to
mhm,
pressure, but you saw last week there was a shift in play. There was a
right.
shift in play. He
And
wasn't comfortable.
yeah, no, and Hurts definitely, he's very good at avoiding. He's one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league. You're not going to bring him down with like a baby head. You need to lay him out. So if you're, someone like a Bradley Chubb, who they traded for last year, to get in this role, or Christian Wilkins, you're looking for these guys to uh, be active this game, or whether it's Zach Sealer, another guy. So that's going to be one of the most important keys in this game. Um, and then you look on the other side of the ball. Yeah, Mike McDaniels is a great play designer. I mean, the way he gets, Tyreek Hill in space or Jalen Waddle in space, a lot of these plays, a lot of misdirection plays, very good
They
use.
really before A Shane went down, they
Hmm.
really didn't. I mean, I can't say that they didn't have a traditional running game. They did,
Hmm.
but like they would fool you when Tua would be, in shotgun. They'd have Tyreek Hill next to him, and a lot of people, including the defense, would think, no, they're going to give it to Tyreek Hill. But you'd see Devin as Shane motion as a wide receiver, but come around as like a mini jet sweep, and
Hmm.
then they would toss it to him, and that's how the rushing game would go. And I think someone brought this up is like, I don't think we've seen an NFL team get like 20, 30, 40 yards off screens consistently.
No,
And
yeah, and
it's a basic play, but the way it's just strategically operated by the Dolphins, and it really, again, it goes back to Mike McDaniel, but just overall, I think it's going to be as very. I mean, obviously, this is like a bigger outlook, and I'll let John go back to his point.
hmm
But the secondary for the Eagles, I mean, Slay's supposed to be back this week, I think, right? Yeah, I read the injury
yes.
report. So, I mean, even then, he hasn't been playing well. So, for some reason, I think this is going to be a defensive game, but I think the offense is. I think the two defenses are weak, but I'll let you go back to
Mhm.
your point.
No, yeah, and they do a good job of the bunch sets. I really like how he utilizes that a lot. And it's like, Tua, it makes it easier for Tua. Not that he hasn't been incredible, but it makes it so much easier for him to read and to make the right throw and make the right decision. And it's really shown that in the numbers. And I gotta say, it seems like this team has they've rallied around Mike McDaniel's, because there's been times in the past where Miami's had a coach, and the owner has Stephen Ross hasn't been the greatest down there. So this is going back to the days of like Adam Gase and other guys that have stepped there, Brian Flores, right? But it really seems like Mike McDaniels has this team rallied around. And, we go back to Tua, right? They making it easier for him. Well, how about this offensive line? Alex, they have the second in terms of like allowing sacks, right? Uh, they've only given up. They are the second fewest. Do you want to guess who the first fewest is?
I believe if the standard has not changed, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That is correct. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at 5. The Dolphins are at 6, which has been phenomenal because not everyone trusted this offensive line for the Dolphins. And I'll add
And
this.
they played a few games without Teron Armstead too. I believe
Correct.
he's
I was
still
I
on
was just
the
getting
injured
into
reserve.
that. So 3 of their starters, Isaiah Wynn, Robert Hunt, and Austin Jackson, they have been mainstays at each spot. So Wynn, their left guard, Robert Hunt, the right guard, and Austin Jackson, former first-round pick, their right tackle. And then, Connor Williams, again, questionable. He's missed 2 of the last 3 games. So if he's not good to go, Liam Eichenberg will step in for him. And then you mentioned the left tackle, Teron Armstead.
Yeah, Eichenberg could play center. It's not what they want,
Yeah.
though. That's what
No,
I've heard
no.
from the
He's
Dolphin fans.
they can move him around. Teron Armstead, he missed the first 2 games of the year, I think. And
then I believe they IR'd him.
yes, I could be. I don't remember if he's on IR, but you
Yes.
might be right on that. And then and stepping in for him was Kendall Lamb, who's a backup. But do you realize that the backup gave up 2 sacks? So their starters have pretty much only given up 4 sacks.
Exactly.
Which has been phenomenal. In hindsight, that's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal job of keeping Tua upright. But I won't. I don't want to I'm gonna give them their props, but they need to be ready today because the Eagles, they have 20 sacks on the season. You got guys like Hassan Reddick, Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Nicholas Marr, all guys with more than 3 or more sacks. So it's going to be a tall order to hold off this ferocious Eagles pass rush that they throw out. And, speaking of the Eagles, I mentioned Jalen Carter. He's returning. He's had a monster rookie season. I mean, Alex, remember us on draft night when we said, like, wow, the Eagles are going to get really good again? And this guy has been, I don't know, is he not your defensive rookie of the year candidate? I know he missed a game, but
there's a few. Davon Witherspoon because of his one game against my team, and yeah, I'd say between him and Jalen Carter, because Jalen Carter is just for a defensive lineman, what a lot of people don't look at when people. The casuals will just say sacks or tackles or something like that.
He's great against the run too.
He's great against the run, but also the amount of times he gets double teamed. And they have a lot of guys on that team that need to be double teamed. I don't think you need to double team Fletcher Cox anymore, but if you do that, fine. Jordan Davis, who they drafted last year, and then this year, obviously Jalen Carter, who's should have been number 1 overall. To many, I mean, Bears are kind of. I guess the Bears are regretting that. But back to like the earlier point is, how many times does he get double teamed? How many times does he pressure the quarterback? So, I think again, Jalen Carter is going to be, especially if I believe Connor Williams will go, but if he can't go, he goes up against Liam Eichenberg. So that's very scary.
It's a matchup to definitely worth considering, and obviously we mentioned other guys coming back. Darius Slay, you mentioned Darius Big Play Slay, he's been pretty much his whole career, whether it's been with the Eagles, whether it's been with the Lions. This guy has been just an excellent corner. And then you pair him up with a James Bradbury. That helps a lot because, and Alex, that honestly might be the, wait, I'm going to shut up. This man has entered the building. Brian, take away your opening thoughts.
Dude, I woke up like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, not even. I am so completely exhausted. Just continue whatever you're talking about with these Dolphins Eagles. Just do it.
He's got the magic hat on. What's up to Barbara in the chat, by the way?
God.
That's the grand entrance. But John.
Oh, and Almighty Gregor Barbara. Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if I addressed anyone earlier.
Bagel with cream cheese? Oh, no. You're doing it all wrong, Barbara.
Oh, no.
Bagel
oh, no.
You need a bagel toasted with cream cheese and bacon. That's how you got to go. That's
Wait,
how you
what?
gotta go. That is the ultimate bagel topping. The ultimate cream cheese and bacon. You will never regret it.
I kind of do agree with him there. It's so good. But anyway, we'll
Making
go
me
back to
fucking
this
hungry now.
Eagles game. I mentioned Slay and Bradbury are probably, I always like to say it's Sauce and Reed, but they're definitely a consideration for the top corner duo in the league. Just because, I mean, you look at the rest of the league. I mean, can you think of anyone else that's?
I mean, like statistically, they haven't been on par though because
No, I know that, but
if you're
again,
talking about names, yeah, but I don't think the production.
not the production this year, but they've been. It's not that they've been horrible at all. I don't think. They're still good, but Alex, you mentioned earlier some injuries in the secondary. Obviously, Bradley Roby is someone. Reed Blankenship, another guy. So some other guys like Sidney Brown are going to have to step up. Probably going to see maybe. I'm trying to think. The other Josiah Scott over from
Eli
Pittsburgh. So, Ringo's another guy, a guy they drafted this year. So we might have to see a little bit of them at times, and it's going to be a tough task for them because we mentioned this Miami receiving core, which might be one of the best in the league. I mean, or if not the best, with all the depth I just mentioned, and obviously, Hill and Waddle getting the attention that they deserve. Almighty saying Sauce and Reed, to be honest, and Barbara said I did the toasted part, but don't have the bacon handy. But yes, I did have that. Okay, so
that's the best way to go.
No,
Never
you're right.
fails.
You're right. And go Dolphins, says Barbara. Well, I'm not rooting for the Dolphins.
Actually, you know what's ironic?
It's going to be transverse today because I'm going to be rooting for the Dolphins and John's going to be rooting for the Eagles.
You know what's funny? I could technically do a hat prediction.
Oh, Christ. What?
I have one for each team. I have a Dolphins hat and an Eagles hat.
Alex, do I even want to know?
What do you mean? So I think I know where he's going with this. So when we predict like final scores, he's going to shut off his camera, put on the hat of the team.
Pull up the hat that I'm gonna for the team that I'm picking.
Okay,
we'll do it like Elite Corso with the headgear thing, that he
Brian,
does for college.
I'm just
something similar. We'll do something.
Brian, I'm just gonna be surprised that if you put a hat on your head at this point.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My picks last week were actually incredible. I went 12-3.
Holy shit!
I know. I had a rough week last week, except for betting. I did pretty good.
My records are like 59-36.
We got to go probably after this like game preview or something like that. We got to go over the Book of Wonder, because I don't know how I finished the week. I know Luca was in the lead.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you pull it up.
I got it right here. Last week, Alex went 8-7. I went 7-8. Luca went 10-5. But now Luca is what's it called? So and including Thursday Night Football's records, Luca is 55-39, and me and you, Alex, are 54-40.
Okay, so we're one game off.
Literally one game. It's a close race. Going back to the
rally I made. What a rally.
Going back to the Eagles. We mentioned Jalen Hurts and the struggles, and there's actually a little bit of history here because we rewind the clock back a few years. These two quarterbacks played on the same college, and one of them took over for someone. So they have a little bit of history. They have a little bit of obviously gamesmanship. They have a respect for each other. What's up, Eric? But I don't want to say there's bad blood, but there's definitely something there. Hurts at the time taking over for Tua.
Luca, a little bombshell from MetLife Stadium. Sub chat saw an L&B Spumoni Gardens pizza box in the Jets locker room last week for whatever reason. You failed to include this last week. But what's up to Luca?
He had an hour story. He talked about
I respect the grind and the grit to give us that update. But
can you confirm whose it was? Who had the box?
And how does the pizza stay that? What do you have to fly the pizza for it to be that hot? I mean, what?
I don't know. Listen,
it's 40 minutes.
To come from Brooklyn in South Brooklyn, you obviously know where LMB is.
That pizza was definitely picked up and eaten in the car.
It was 100% picked up and brought over. It takes half an hour to get in, honestly. As long as it's an empty stadium, they can get it quickly.
The Johnsons would fly it in.
Yeah, true. Nevertheless, Jalen Hurts always been a competitor, always been someone that, plays with emotion. But here's why I say that is because the Eagles, they're expected to be a dominant team this year. They did not. I guarantee you, because that was a little bit embarrassing on offense last week. They definitely did not take kindly to that. They are definitely extra motivated for this game, in my opinion, and they will not be taken lightly tonight. And even though Alex and Luca picked the Eagles to win this game, I still am going with the Dolphins because of my gut. So, nevertheless, now we have the position battles. The quarterback edge, giving it to the Dolphins. Tua has probably been the best quarterback this season so far, just by the numbers. And also, he's one of the. I think he's one of the more underrated pocket passers in the league. He really can throw it downfield. It's not all these, and I know the ESPN First Take crew said this week, or Stephen A. Smith said that it's a lot of screen passes that he has Tyreek Hill for, but that is not true whatsoever. I mean, you watch the highlights this year, and that's all you have to do. He's thrown some really good balls, in my opinion. The running back group, this was a tough one, but because of the injury to Devon Achane, I went with the Eagles because you got Swift, Gainwell, Boston Scott, Penny, all guys that can do it. They'll probably only start 3 of them, and then you add the fact that Jalen Hurts is a runner too, so that's going to be a tough task for the Dolphins. Now, in terms of the receivers, I'm definitely going with the Dolphins here. I mean, I mentioned the depth earlier. I mentioned the 2 stars earlier. So, again, probably the best receiving core in the league, in my opinion, right now. And then you look at the tight end spot. I had the Eagles here because, Dallas Goedert, probably a top 5 tight end still. I would say he's had a very strong season. And what happened? You calling timeout?
You almost called me Luca, so I just want to make that known. That's number 1.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
you know why? Because I was.
I'm also in his spot.
No, I was looking at his name in the chat, and so I saw that, and I'm like, oh, oops.
But so there's 2 things. I mean, the Giants stuff I'll list later, but this could be a dick tease, so just keep this in mind. But Ian Rappaport at the top of the hour will have some news on the New England Patriots with quote-unquote context.
Okay. I'm kind of curious now, but...
Oh, we got the hats, people. They are secured.
Oh, boy.
Dolphins, Eagles.
Oh, my God.
They are secured. I'm telling you, I'm still hunting for hats as we speak. As long as I get more, I'm starting to collect more and more until I have all 32 teams.
Is this a new job profession, hat hunting?
Well, like dude, I can do a whole bunch of sketches and videos as long as I got hats. That's why I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, it's a hobby. But I've never introduced this to Brian. I got to get to the comments in just a second. So, John, you want to hold up your glass? I have a theory that John stole a glass from Salty.
I didn't steal a glass.
From Salty Dog?
Yes.
First of all, why are you going to Salty Dog?
I don't go there. I didn't steal her. Why
did you not hear the story about the 11 firefighters who jumped 2 youth coaches? Did you not hear the story?
Dude, I've heard all the stories.
Luca, Alex, if you don't know the story,
it's the second time I've been called Luca.
You're in Luca's room. What do you want me to say?
It's the second time.
You're in Luca's room. What do you want me to say?
Right, but we're 2 different people.
We're not going into this now. We're not
with the backdrop.
But my theory is that he stole that glass from Salty Dog, and Brad is my witness.
Brad's from Australia. Brad lives there. He can't witness anything.
Here's my better guess. I think he ran into a redneck, jumped him, knocked him unconscious, and stole the moonshine glass.
I like that theory better.
It's a mason jar of moonshine that was completely dirty, owned by somebody who was living in the mountains of West Virginia. He cleaned it out and is using it as a water glass now.
So good. It's now a John Denver song.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's drinking straight moonshine right now and he's not telling us.
It will wake me up. But nevertheless, we go back to position battles. You know, this Eagles offensive line has been a mainstay like for years. It's probably the top 2 or 3. But I'm actually going to lean the Dolphins offensive line because they've played better in my opinion. Mostert had like over 5 yards of carry. I believe Devon Achane did as well. And I mentioned the sack numbers. Their starters have only given up 4 sacks this year. And, you know, Brian's Bucks are the only team in the NFL that has given up less sacks. But they've also played one less game. What do you mean?
We haven't given up the least amount of sacks.
Yes, you have.
Not to my knowledge. And according to team sacks, I think we're like 3rd.
How many sacks you guys have given up?
Let me take a look now. I'm pretty sure we haven't allowed many sacks.
Brian, he's talking about if your offensive line allowed the least amount of sacks.
Yes, I'm saying I don't think we did. I think we're like 3rd.
I'm pretty sure you're 1st, but
I could have swore when I was going through the stats earlier this week, it wasn't the case. I'm curious about this. Let me take a look. But keep going with your point.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm confident.
No. We'll wait for Brian. We'll wait. I got it
I'm
right.
I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna shut up now. You can continue.
So he's wrong. You know what that deserves?
I swear the statistic was different, but okay.
You know what that would deserve?
Yeah, the stat changed midweek. Yes.
Yeah, listen, the NFL's trying to make me look like an idiot.
We're trying to interpret what roughing the passer is. Apparently, the definition of a sack has changed.
Literally.
But so the one thing is the Dolphins are tied for 2nd, like you were saying. They're tied for 2nd for least amount of sacks allowed.
Right, and I was saying their starters have only given up 4. A backup gave up 2 of them. So Dolphins have been an excellent on the offensive line. Remember, we mentioned Tua and his concussion injuries. Well, those have kind of gone away, sort of, just because he hasn't gotten hit that much. They're not getting him killed, which great job by that unit. Now we move on to the defense. In terms of the defensive line itself, I'm going with the Eagles here. First off, it's, I mentioned Jalen Carter and, Alex mentioned Jordan Davis. Fletcher Cox is still a solid player, a veteran on this team. So is Brandon Graham is a solid veteran on this team. They moved Hassan Reddick pretty much to defensive end, and he's a linebacker playing defensive end, which is unfair because I'm pretty sure he's got like 5. What happened? Calling timeout.
At least this is what it was.
Oh, okay.
This past offseason, Bill Belichick quietly agreed to a lucrative multi-year new contract. That's what sources say. That at least adds some context to the discussions about the greatest coach in NFL history. So I guess that was the bomb. That there was despite all the talks, that's what that was. But
okay, well, they can do what they want. Anyway, as Brian tried to make me laugh there.
That was unintentional.
I know. You're just clowning around. That's why.
The whole webcam just hit the floor.
I know it did. That's why I was laughing. You look at, I know Miami. I mentioned some of their players. I really like Christian Wilkins. He's been probably their best defensive lineman. If not, you can maybe argue Roquan Davis. But Zach Sealer coming from Baltimore has been pretty good too. You look at the linebacking group in terms, and now the Dolphins play a 3-4. The Eagles play a 4-3. In terms of the linebacking group here, I like the middle linebackers better for the Dolphins. I think that they've been pretty solid in coverage. It was a kind of a we don't know group, but David Long Jr. has been really good. Jerome Baker's been good, and at times they've been very solid in coverage. To some degree, there's been games where it's kind of slipped a little, but again, they also have had their fair share of injuries in that secondary, so it's asking a lot of that linebacker group to step up. In terms of the outside linebackers, though, I mean, it's like I said, Hassan Reddick's an outside linebacker playing defensive end, but they got so many pass rushers there that it's It's almost unheard of. Like the Eagles, their biggest strength to their team on defense is their pass rush. They go after the quarterback quite well. In terms of the secondary, the position battle there, I'm rolling with the Eagles. I still like Slay and Bradbury a lot. And I know they have some injuries, but I still and I know it's probably going to be the tougher task tonight, but yeah, I think that's better than Miami's just because the questions with the health of Xavier Howard. Eli Apple's not he's good, but I think you can pick him a little. Javon Holland's been amazing. So again, it's the defense of the Dolphins. They have the pieces, they just don't have it complete, in my opinion. Like I said earlier, Dolphins 19th against the pass. So not like bad, but not good. Kind of middle of the pack, probably below average in that department. And then you look at the special teams, and I gave the advantage there to the Dolphins because, number one, I will never pick a special teams winner when you have Braden Mann as your punter, as the Eagles do now, because we know what a Shankville he is. And, Jake Elliott's a solid kicker, but they really haven't gotten much in the return game. Now, as for the Dolphins, Sanders has been solid for a few years now. Jake Bailey's an okay punter. And then I like Braxton Berrios in his return role. I think he's been better than last year. So those are my position battles. But I think it's time we move into stat predictions. For this game, I don't know if you, Alex, I don't see you have it written down. So I guess you're
It's
going
to be one in progress.
Okay. Lead passer, I got Jalen Hurts tonight. 290 yards, 2 touchdowns with a pick.
Okay. Whose secondary is a little bit more vulnerable? You know what? I'm gonna take Tour. I'm gonna say let's go with a touchdown, interception, and for yards, let me go. I'm gonna go 250.
250. Okay. All right. That's good yardage.
Ryan.
So, the secondaries are a good question to ask here. Listen, when you go through the numbers for this in terms of passing, you got the two best offenses in the league facing off here. It's the two best. Dolphins number 1 by far. Eagles following close behind with the number 2. But the defenses is what's going to come down to. Who's better at stopping each offense? The Dolphins have the number 1 passing offense, the number 1 rushing offense. But also, the 5 games they've won up to this point, the teams have a combined 5 wins in the teams they've beaten. The team that had more than 2 wins on the season, which is Buffalo, they lost to. This feels like another pattern where I'm siding with the Eagles here, but I can't really make that determination. But if I'll save my prediction really before I do the hat choice. But I'm telling you now, in terms of the performances, I think the secondary is weaker for the Dolphins overall. Their defense is ranked 22nd in the league compared to the Eagles' 11th. If somebody's going to have a good passing day, Tua is probably still going to have the better passing day regardless. But I think in the end, Jalen Hurts won't be too far behind. If you're being honest, neither quarterback hits 300 passing today. Tyreek Hill is going to get put in a box. I don't know. I would say like maybe 250 as well for him, maybe 275. I'll go with 275 for Tua, and for Hurts, it's like 250.
Okay. All right. The lead rusher today, I'm going with Raheem Mostert. I got him at 15 carries, 75 yards, but I got him he's going to get 2 touchdowns today. He's getting 2 tutties today. He's getting it.
I'm going to say DeAndre Swift. Let's go 85 yards.
Okay.
A touchdown.
Ooh, you guys are really believing in DeAndre Swift today.
Oh, I'm going with Mostert.
Okay. All right. At least I know that somebody is thinking about that and leaning towards Mostert. Mostert deserves a lot of respect because, again, top rushing offense in the league. Again, Dolphins. Eagles not far behind, but they're not doing very well on yards per carry. And on the defensive side, you're talking about run defenses, right? Who allows the least amount of rushing yards? The Eagles. Second least behind the Lions. And in terms of yards per carry for the teams they face, I mean, this is like one of the Dolphins' weaker points. They're just a mediocre team in this category. They've allowed 687 yards on the ground this year. So if anybody could benefit, it would probably be the Eagles, but I can't say that Swift would be consistent. I think Mostert has the better day, like you're saying, John. But it's not like either running back's going to get like anywhere more than 85 yards. Anywhere more than that. So I'm thinking if Mostert has a good day, it's probably going to be like 75. Somewhere between 70 and 75 yards. Probably has a touchdown. And Jeff Wilson's back today, apparently. I think he came off IR, so he should be either back today or next week.
Yeah, you would have known that, Brian, if you came on time.
Listen, it's a miracle I'm even here right now. It's a miracle.
Oh, we gotta thank the Lord, John, that Brian is here.
Let us pray.
I'm telling you, it's rough, man. It's rough for me to even get in here sometimes. When I'm doing my work shifts, I'm not home till like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm not home till like 3 or 4 in the morning. The fact I'm even here is kind of remarkable.
No, I give you credit.
Yeah, we give you credit.
Barbara said Hurts is the Eagles running back mostly.
Swift does a good job when he can.
If it's the tush push, sure. Can't stand that play, by the way. I really can't. It's too good for no reason.
Yeah, so stop it.
I mean, you could stop it. I just don't think there's any way to properly execute it.
I mean, I've seen teams fail with it. The Eagles do it phenomenally.
I think it's because they just have a really good foundation on their offensive lines. They just get it so easily. But also, they do something interesting. If I'm correct, they bring in they take out older receivers when they do those, and they put in the tight ends.
Yeah.
And then extra running back who has like a fullback build, and
That's
they
smart.
use them to punch the hole.
That is very smart.
And in the backfield, I don't think they put a running back. I think they put a tight end in the backfield so that when Hurts goes to run, he comes up behind him and just shoves him through whatever gap is open.
Yeah. You're right.
He pushes Goddard. Well, I mean, Goddard's the one that's pushing, I should say. But I think we're on to lead receiver.
Lead wide out. I'm going – who did I have? I'm going with Mr. Tyreek Hill today just because I think he's been the best receiver in football this year, and I don't think there's a close second right now, in my opinion.
I'm going to go A.J. Brown. I'm going to say –
I got Hill at 8 catches, 140 yards. Sorry, I didn't say that.
You're good. Let me go A.J. Brown. I'm going to say 110 yards.
110? Okay.
Touchdown.
Wait, 110 yards? Okay. Thinking. Because I think both top receivers up to this point won't have great games. And I'm talking like Tyreek and AJ. Mm-hmm. That's why in fantasy, they're talking about if you have Tyreek Hill and your team is on a losing streak, trade him. Because you need to get the bigger – they're saying you need to get the bigger assets, and the Dolphins' schedule gets really hard from here on out. So because he's facing a lot of tougher competition, his numbers are going to be deflated. I
wholeheartedly disagree with your fantasy advice.
No, I'm saying this is the advice I've heard. This isn't my advice. I'm just saying
okay. Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with their advice because Tyreek Hill has shown.
That's fine. Again, I still don't think Tyreek's having the best day. If there's going to be a top player in receiving yards, this is going to sound really dumb, but I'm thinking probably give me Waddle. Waddle will have more yards than Hill today.
Okay.
I think Jalen's going to have he'll go. I think he'll hit 100 today, probably 110. And there will be a touchdown for Tyreek Hill, but I think he only hits like 70 or 60 today. And Jalen Waddle gets all the attention. Same thing goes to the Eagles. It'll be Devonta Smith today, not A.J. Brown. I think it'll be flipped.
That makes sense. All right. Lead tackler today, going a little crazy. I got Bradley Chubb today at 12 tackles.
Ooh.
Bradley Chubb.
Nice.
Out of the box pick right there. Let me take Zach Cunningham.
Oh, okay. Interesting picks,
tackles.
I'm thinking now. I'm trying to figure out. Trying to get the numbers myself so I can actually get a good gauge. Sorry about this, y'all.
Good.
All right, come on. Where are you? Where are the stats? Give me the stats, please. Thank you. Freaking NFL.com got the worst stats in the world. Come on.
So don't use
Why
it.
trust ESPN with all the stats? Come on. Let's go. I mean, if I'm being honest, I could just look at the rosters and guess, but I really don't want to. No, I don't want tickets to the game. Stop it.
You sure you don't want to buy those tickets?
I'm not going to Philly. You crazy? If you're not wearing a Philly jersey, you might actually get thrown into the water.
You're the closest one there out of the three of us.
Technically, yes, but I'm not going to Philly. I would never want to step foot there in my life. I mean that
put on the
very
Eagles hat,
seriously.
you'll be fine.
I can't believe that Miami's favored in this is actually favored in this game according to ESPN. They think there's a 58% chance they're winning this game.
Interesting.
Trying to look for the tackles. They're not giving me tackles, you freaking. All right. I'm just
McCall
going to go to the
Hardman is
Dolphins. I think the
expected
Dolphins are going to get more tackles because it's going to be more ground and pound from the Eagles. So if that's the case, depth chart, let's just say I'll say more tackles today for Jalen Phillips.
Okay.
I mean, Jalen Phillips will get a lot of attention.
You guys are
Probably like
picking pass
I'll say like
rushers.
9 tackles for him.
Right. Pass rushers. Okay. By the way, McCall Hardman is expected to play his Chiefs again debut.
Again debut.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charles, do not trade Tyreek Hill. Do not. I don't care
Yeah,
what.
I'm not telling you to trade Tyreek Hill.
I
I'm just
didn't
telling
say
you
it-
for
I didn't say it
fantasy
was
football
you.
today on CBS.
I'm
Almighty traded Calvin Ridley, and I'm like, why?
I traded AJ Brown.
also traded Tyreek Hill earlier.
I traded AJ Brown and shot myself in the foot. So we all make mistakes in the heat of
It's
passion.
all right, Ron. You're never
What's
you're
up,
never late.
Ron?
You're never late. Don't worry. Nevertheless, lead sack man today. I got the return from Jalen Carter. 1.5 sacks today.
Ooh, Jalen Carter pick. I like it.
See, that's a very good one. You know what? I'm gonna go with Josh Sweat, and I'm gonna say he's gonna get 2 sacks.
Ooh, I like it. I'm thinking. I'll give you a random name. This one might sound random, but I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
I'll say Christian Wilkins, the Dolphins. I'll say 1.5 sacks for him. He'll have a better than expected day from the left side.
Who said they traded Tyreek again?
Almighty.
Yeah, I mean,
That explains it up there.
That's
All
pretty much.
Final score picks before we go into our next game. I got the
Yeah.
Dolphins winning this one, 31-28.
I'm turning the camera off for this.
Yep. This
Oh
is
my
the
God.
hat reveal.
You should call Brian the Mad Hatter at this point.
Do you want to go next, Alex?
Yes, that was my intention. You know what? I'm gonna pull this up before I make predictions. All right. So there's a couple of times in my youth, well, not my youth, but my earlier days where I used to watch Colin Cowherd. Now, what does that have to do with anything that's being talked about right now? See,
I hope nothing.
well, could be, maybe not. But I have a couple. Brian is reminding me of something that Colin Cowherd used to do in a show. Nonetheless, I am going to take the Eagles to win today. I do think Miami just runs into one of these vulnerable-esque games, and as I said, unfortunately, I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be defensive more than anyone anticipates. But I want to show this image and get to it. I have a ton of shit saved on my computer. That's why I'm scrolling through it before Brian actually shows us what he's got on today. Let's see. I could find it.
I feel like he's coming on with a jersey and like a little pom-pom.
Okay.
I sincerely hope not, especially
It's not happening. Don't think it is.
Don't think it is? Okay. This is I'm just trying to find this friggin' thing that again Colin Cowherd used to do. You know what? I'm gonna actually say, Brian, reveal yourself.
So before I reveal myself, one reminder: the Eagles have the same amount of wins this season as all the teams that the Dolphins have beaten this year combined.
5 by the
5-1
way.
compared to the 5 collective wins. And the team they lost to had more than 2 wins on the year. This feels like it is too easy. No, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Don't do this. Please. Please.
That's what he reminds me.
Very good comparison. A+.
It actually is not bad. That's why I hate it, because I can't stand Colin. I think he's one of the dumbest football minds in sports. I think he's actually the worst. But
Brian, I couldn't agree more.
Again, this is a guy who was saying that Dwayne Haskins will never win a Super Bowl, and he was right because the guy died a year ago and still talked about it on the air. I'll never forget that moment.
I remember you went off on him for that.
Yep, I was ruthless on him on my podcast. Biggest clown ever. But nevertheless, again, this is a tough game in a Philly environment. I don't think Tua is prepared for what's coming. Tyreek might be the only one who can match the energy that's coming. And still without Jalen Ramsey ready to go this week. Their secondary is going to be having a hard time today. They're facing a really difficult defense, too, that's 10 times better than theirs. Again, I could totally see the Dolphins pulling this off and proving me wrong and overplaying. Playing as if the Eagles were like a 2-win team. But in the end, it's kind of obvious who I'm picking here. If you guys know how I think. We're going Philly.
Yep. You got all the Giant supporters in Alex's chat booing you right now.
I'm going Philly. I'm sorry. I'm not going.
Well, no, I'm going Philly too, but
Miami.
I'm not putting on a Philly hat. That's the
difference. It's funny because me and Alex are rooting against the teams that we're picking.
No, listen. Yes. I'm not rooting for the team. I just picked it.
No, I
picked the team. That's it.
But what John's trying to make the point is that there's divisional implications here. Not that, like, obviously John's team is closer in their division than my team, but it just stands to the point that because of the divisional rivals, we hope. I mean, actually, it would kind of benefit us if it ended in a tie, but we don't want a tie because ties are stupid. So, that's right. I got to put in a score prediction. So I said Eagles. Let me go. I'm gonna say 27-23.
Oh yeah, I didn't give the score. That's right. Shit. 20. I'll say 28-17. Dolphins aren't going to have a very good offensive day scoring wise.
Ron's right. These sports analysts, they get paid 6 figures.
He's on point.
You can't tell me that's pretty much the only difference between guys like us and those clowns. And the fact is, for the most part, we know more, just as much or more. Not saying for people that have played the game, because I don't think we know more than them. But some of these clowns out there, sheesh.
Yeah.
I took it off, Charles. I took it off.
Let's take out that trash bird.
I couldn't wear it for too long before I got murdered.
Nobody picked the Jets last week. Look how nice they did. Still happy over it. Yeah, I mean, it was – if we picked the Jets, the Eagles would have won. That's how it would have won.
Yeah, true.
And there was no solution for a tie there.
Remember I picked them to beat the Pats, and then they didn't.
Yeah, because and I told you beforehand that was a total clown pick.
All right. You've made some clown pick. Look, we have the same record, so you can't be like poo-pooing here.
Ooh, well, fight words.
Yeah, well, you know what? Hold on. I know we usually use this between me and Luca, but ding, ding, ding. Also, I know before I get into my preview, I apologize in advance if I sound friggin' stuffy because I'm either getting sick or it's allergies. So,
that makes sense.
I like to put my money on allergies.
Yes. Lions and Ravens. Yes, we're doing this game.
I would like to. I called John on the phone yesterday. Well, John actually called me on the phone yesterday, and we were talking about like the previews and stuff like that. My original game that I was going to do was Raiders-Bears because it was such a terrible QB match.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Brian Hoyer, who's lost his last 12 starts, versus Tyson Badgett, where the last time he played, the collective attendance was like, what, 3,000 maximum? And now he's going into a Bears ball, and now he's going to Soldier Field, which can hold like almost 80,000. He's going from like a D2, D3 school, Shepherd University.
I didn't hear of Shepherd.
And he's starting a game. It's crazy. It's crazy. He's going to win, by the way. I have the Bears winning.
If I didn't pick a tie last week, this week I would have picked a tie. Brian Well, it's Brian Hoyer. Unless you're combining Brian. Oh, he did say Hoyer. Okay.
Brian Hoyer has always been that guy. The problem is that the type of quarterback he is doesn't work in the NFL anymore. I used to watch him on the Browns, and I was in awe of how good he was. And then how bad the Browns were that he ended up becoming a career backup afterwards. He wasn't as bad as I thought.
Ryan,
I'm serious. I told you I always have a soft spot for backups. I could tell who really is good and really deserved the fair shot.
Because you watched a Bucks team that had Josh Freeman, Mike Glennon,
Josh
and all
McCown,
the other Josh McCown,
who started in a 2-14 season for us. Yes, I know. We had Byron Leftwich starting for a season. At one point, we had Bruce Gradkowski starting.
Bruce.
I know. And Brian Sims.
Brian Sims.
Before he ruptured his spleen.
I haven't heard of it in a while.
That's Chris Sims. Correction.
I was about to say Chris Sims, yeah.
Oh.
But Brian Sims had the same thing. Had some kind of issue of his own.
Brian, Chris, same outcome on that.
I have to ask you a question because it kind of has to deal with Chris Sims. And this is before we get into our game preview.
Yes, I don't think he understands how quarterbacks work. Next question.
Sure, but that's not the question I was going to ask.
I hate his
I was on the way home, and since both of you know this guy, I might as well just throw a little shout, and he's in the chat sometimes. Anthony Cerulli's dad decided to take me home last night after we were done the 48-hour film competition. But nonetheless, he had the sports radio on, and Danielle McCartan was on of WFAN, and she was going off of this thing that's been circling social media. Ron's in the chat. He's a fan of USC. Do you guys personally think that rumor about Caleb Williams is true? I don't think it is. Because if it's any other source, I would say yes. Pro Football Talk. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Are you talking about the source saying that he's
he wants ownership of a team?
I could believe it, honestly. And I watched him play last night, and I'll be honest with you. I'm telling you, he's severely overhyped right now. He really is. Is he still the best QB in the quarterback class? Yeah, I think he is. But is he, to compare him to Patrick Mahomes is just blasphemy. Because Patrick Mahomes wouldn't lose games like that. Like he did last night to Utah. Where it took a backup quarterback having a miracle 25-yard run that put them in field goal range to walk it off and beat them in USC.
Well, to be fair, Brian, Mahomes wasn't like this special winner at Texas Tech.
But the difference was that offense was extremely explosive. And
no, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to be better than Mahomes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying winning doesn't always mean winning in college doesn't always mean translating to success in the NFL.
Correct. And that's why, again, I had a feeling they were going to lose it yesterday. When I was going through college football games on Friday, I was talking about the games to watch, and I said this was a big game with big implications. If USC loses this, which they really could because Utah's a good squad, I felt like at that point you got to start questioning things with Lincoln Riley. And they lost last night to a backup quarterback. Cam Rising wasn't even playing. It was Barnes. And, a lot of the other games started out really close, and then each team ended up pulling away late and making it less close, which was like the Alabama game, USC game. USC game was the only one that was close. Oregon and Washington State, FSU and Duke, Ohio State, all these games started out really close, and then they ended up pulling away. But Ron's right about the one thing I think, which is that Caleb needs to stay in college another year.
And that's
one more year before he.
Because I'm sure if he stayed in college another year,
he'd severely benefit from it.
Well, not only that, but I'm sure he'd still be the first overall pick in 2 years from now. So it's not like
God forbid he gets injured or anything, but right now, yeah, he probably would be the number one.
Yeah, he said that I believe if something isn't true, they would shut it down quickly. They would shut the rumor down quick.
Shut it down.
But if they let it fly, they're okay with people believing it. USC defense is trash. That is true. Caleb was bad again. No two ways about it. Charles Barkley says he wants ownership. He can want ownership all he wants, but he'll lucky to be a starter for 5 to 10 years. Most QBs don't last that long. He's never getting ownership. And I don't think you could I'm pretty sure it's in the NFL rules that you can't own a team while you're playing. And I'm pretty sure that that could also be maybe he's thinking it in different ways. Like he wants what the hell is the word? He wants power in terms of, hey, I want personnel decisions and stuff like that. But I could go in, I could get drafted by the Giants and say I want Tyreek Hill. Does that mean that's going to happen? No.
Can't do it. Yeah.
The ball on the way. I mean, I don't know about that. But anyway, so we go into this game. Again, apologies if I sound a little congested because that's currently what I am. But we got the Lions, we got the Ravens. I picked this over the Raiders and Bears game. So this is going to be one of the best games of the day, and I'm definitely going to tune into it when I'm not tuning into the New York Giants game. That being said, let's go into depths. Storylines. There's not necessarily a specific storyline to take out of this, but it kind of goes into the statistics as well, because you got the first best rushing defense in the Detroit Lions against the fifth best rushing offense in the Baltimore Ravens, who have been functioning at least well without J.K. Dobbins. And there's also rumors that they'll be in the market for a running back at the trade deadline. And I think, honestly, within the next 2 weeks, we got to do something Rise and Rush related to the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I don't think we'll be doing a show, but nonetheless, you got the fourth best passing offense in Detroit against the second best passing defense in the NFL in the Ravens. So if you're a Jets fan or like whoever, your team's on a bye or your team don't play till 4:25 tomorrow night or tonight, this is a game to tune into. So I'll go over stats and we'll go over the injury report too. I mentioned the Detroit Lions' fourth best passing offense, eighth best rushing offense, and fourth best points offense. I guess in John's case, he could do some early scouting just in case Robert Saleh decides not to work out. Ben Johnson is going to be looked at by a lot of teams this upcoming offseason. What's the spread in this game? That is a good question, my man. I can pull that up.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. BetMGM has the spread currently. The Ravens are favored by 3.
Yeah. Which makes sense a little bit. Makes sense. Anyway, so we move forward. Passing defense, 18th. First best rushing defense in the NFL. And 9th best points defense. Stats-wise, the Ravens haven't had a good passing attack. Now, we obviously talked coming in from the offseason, the wide receiver upgrades. Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, who's currently on IR. It hasn't necessarily worked for them. It's been a little shaky. Zay Flowers has had some drops. They just haven't had the big plays, and they haven't converted. There's been some red zone struggles, even though they're a top 15 red zone offense. So they're 24th in that category. They're 5th in rushing offense. Their lead rusher is Lamar Jackson, by the way. And also they are 15th in points offense. You take a look at the passing defense. They are 2nd in passing defense. And if you remember, guys, last year when Mike McDonald came over from Michigan, they were not a good defense to start the year. They were not a good defense. They had all types of injuries to the secondary, schematics going wrong. It was very much different from what they had used before with Wink Martindale. But they've pretty much shirred it up statistically. 2nd in passing defense, 9th in rushing, and 4th in the points defense category. So we go to the injury report, and it's a pretty clean bill of health for the home team, except for 2 players. One is a key player, one is more of a backup. Kevon Seymour is out with an ankle injury, and Marcus Williams is out with a hamstring injury. So there's that. There's nobody questionable. Malik Harrison, Jadeveon Clowney, some of the other guys, Brent Urban, they are going to go. Detroit Lions, they do get 2 key injuries here with a couple of guys questionable. Montgomery's going to be out a few weeks with his rib injury. Jonah Jackson, he's out with an ankle injury, which would lead Coyote Owasika to start at left guard, which Brian got a glimpse of last week. He only allowed, I think, 4 pressures. Anyway, Joshua Paschal, questionable with a knee injury, who's been pretty much hampered by injuries all year, and Craig Reynolds, hamstring and toe injury. They need him because they don't have Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs also is going to be healthy too. So before I get into top matchups, we could go over and skip to the position battles. This is really interesting because this is a good game. Quarterback. I'm going to go ahead and take the Detroit Lions. Skill set wise, excuse me, I got to sneeze, so Now, is it going away? Is it not going away? Because you always have that feeling. Statistically, actually, let's start with talent. Talent-wise, you look at Lamar Jackson, but production-wise, and I get it, Lamar Jackson can run. He's the lead rusher right now. I'm going to go Jared Goff because we're talking specifically in the passing category, and I have to admire what he's done. The running back room, this is interesting a little bit. If Montgomery was healthy, I'd go with Montgomery, but I feel like, you know what? I'm still going to take the Lions. Wide receivers going to take the Lions as well because I feel like their production has been a little bit more better. That's not a word, but anyway. Tight end, Mark Andrews is still there, so I'm going to go with Mark Andrews with the Ravens. And Sam Laporta, that should be a good matchup for this game, which we'll get into. Offensive line, I think the Lions have held their own. They pretty much have, and they've done well with some of the injuries coming along. The defensive line, this is tough, and it's also going to include the outside linebacking core, which honestly I have two separate ones because the defensive line, I'll include the interior. These are two different systems, one a 3-4, the other one's a 4-3. It's weird because the Lions have more sacks, but the pressure percentage goes more to Baltimore. Actually, no, I think you got to flip that. I think Baltimore's not great in the pressure percentage, but they're good in sacks. So it just tells you what you need to know. But outside linebackers, I'm taking the Ravens, Jadeveon Clowney. And it's quite interesting, too, because I might actually take the Ravens with the defensive line because Justin Matabuki has been the lead sacker. And, a couple of years ago, you didn't know who Justin Matabuki was. I would argue, and this is not to just take a shot at John, I would argue that his breakout game was against the New York Jets last year in the first opening game. So give me 1 second.
Sorry, guys. We apologize that Alex.
Need that chicken soup that Barbara was talking about.
Yeah, that's gonna be on the number one after this. I would have thought Pickham. Hate the feeling of sneezing. Yeah, I mean, I just hate the feeling of having a dry throat and being super congested. But anyway, enough about me. Inside linebackers, I'm going to take the Ravens, and I think it really speaks that, Roquan Smith, he's played well. Patrick Queen alongside him as well. And again, it goes to support the run defense. Not to say that Alex Anzalone isn't good and Malcolm Rodriguez and Jack Campbell haven't been doing their parts, but I'm going to take the Ravens. Secondary, I'm going to take the Ravens by far. There's more notable names, and statistically, they've done better. You have to admire Cam Sutton, but Marlon Humphrey is on his own this year. And you also, this is a guy I really liked from the Eagles that I wanted the Giants to sign a couple of years ago, but injuries have been just hampering his entire career. That is Ronald Darby, the former Buffalo Bill. He's played really well in the few games he's gotten the sample size in, and I want to shout out to him. Special teams, the Ravens. Now, of course, if you guys are on social media, are you guys aware of what Tom Pelissero said this week? I'd be surprised if you're not.
I haven't been paying much attention to what Pelissero's been saying.
Okay, so this was actually in a video. John, are you aware of what Pelissero said this week?
Oh, wait. No, I do. Are you talking about the new meme with him?
The new meme.
Oh my gosh, yes. I did see it. I reposted it.
Did you see what Pelissero said?
No, I did not.
You got to show it. Okay. We got to show it.
So this, I mean, if I get copyrighted, who gives a shit? So let me look up and get the spelling right for Tom Pelissero. And of course, he's an NFL insider, and he went with it. But let's put it up for the people in the audience. And
this is great. This is a great clip.
If you guys are, you know what? I'm not going to put out any offense warnings because who the fuck is going to get offended by this?
It's not offensive at all. Yeah, it's just really funny.
Yeah. So I got the. All right, you guys can see it. All right. Interpret this how you will.
Those ghosts of Justin Tucker banging a 60-year-old.
Oh, I did see this.
Over off the crossbar and through to beat the Lions last year.
Mike Garafolo is so embarrassed.
He couldn't hold it in. Garafolo was so disappointed.
He was like, Tom, what are you doing, man?
He's like, and then you got Justin Tucker banging a 60-year-old. 60-yard field goal. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Armin in the chat. Also, shouts to Armin for sharing us out on Twitter.
Oh, thank you, man.
So good. So
But
good.
that was I had to show that because, and no, if you're asking, no, it's not the reason I did this game this week. So I'm looking at actually better yet before we go to top matchups and then stat predictions after that. Oh my
Oh,
God,
goodness.
Arvid,
Oh,
Arvid,
I
boy.
can't thank you, bro. I can't thank you.
you're a treasure. You're a treasure, Arvid. But before I go into the stat predictions after, but before that, the top matchups. Does anybody have any thoughts on this game? I could start with Brian and then move to the John.
Actually, let John go first. Let John go first.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you. It's funny with the Lions, and this we might have a cough cough a bet on this game, so stay tuned for that later. But nevertheless, are the like can I ask y'all something like are
Maybe.
the Lions not like are they not like a top team right now? They obviously are. Like where would you rank them?
Do you want me to rank NFC or do you want me to rank like overall?
You just do NFC for now. Like who's better in the
Well,
NFC than the Lions?
Second best.
I,
They're only behind the
uh,
Niners. I think they're better than Philly.
see that I need to see head to head for. If the Eagles don't win today, I'm gonna say that the Lions are better.
Okay, so about second or third because I really tried looking at like where there's a weakness on this team. Their biggest flaw might have been their special teams return game. I think if for anyone doesn't know, special teams coordinator, I have the quote right here. David Phipp. He was asked about some of the risky decisions from Khalif Raymond. He's like, oh, there's a risk to it, there's a reward to it. You got to balance those things out, yada yada yada, the whole bunch of stuff. But my point with that is, this team is so stacked and so much depth, well coached. Like I really tried to dig deep to find like where's their weakest spot because I really don't see anything that's like below average. Their quarterback play has been great. Their skill position's great. The line on both offensive and defensive line been phenomenal. Alex, you mentioned that O line. I think it's probably a top 2 or 3 in the league. Their secondary has been fine. The linebackers, like, I really don't see where they've been weak. And when you have this loaded roster, and then combine that with a really good coach and Dan Campbell, who's been friggin', he was hated at first, but he's arguably probably coach of the year candidate in my
He is
opinion.
absolutely the coach of the year
I
candidate.
mean, that's just me. And I feel like everyone's like underrating the Lions. Like, no, this is not just a good team. Like, they're a phenomenal team in my opinion. And then you look at the Ravens. Some of the reasons why they've been good, it's mainly been their defense. Their defense has been. Alex alluded to it. They struggled a little bit last year because obviously no more Wink. So they had to adjust after that. And you mentioned some of the guys. You mentioned Justin Matabuke, who probably did have that breakout game against the Jets, but that's not all they have. Obviously, Roquan Smith, a guy they got from Chicago, been probably one of the better linebackers in the league. I mean, you got also Patrick Queen in there as well. Mike McDonald, he really, they've been disguising more blitzes to give offenses a tougher challenge, tougher looks out there. Remember, Roquan Smith, All Pro last year, probably could very well be a Pro Bowler, All Pro player this year. Another player on that defense, guy that's really taken a big jump, Kyle Hamilton at the safety spot. He actually leads all safeties in sacks this year, and he's second in run stops. So you combine that with his very good cover skills, and they've asked a lot of him, but he's been phenomenal. He's taken a major jump and elevated this defense yet again. Not that Harbaugh's really ever had bad defenses, but they're still a very top of the league tier defense in my opinion. And again, Alex, you mentioned it. Maybe not the sacks, but the pressure rate is there. it hasn't gone away. They're still, not making it easy for some of these quarterbacks that they've faced, and they've had a bit of a weird season. So in terms of some of the scores as some of the games they've lost, remember they lost that game against the Colts a few weeks back in overtime. That was a bit of a weird one. They then dropped one to the Steelers, but they beat the dog piss out of the Browns. They won against the Bengals. They beat the Texans, who have been good this year. So it's not like
Titans last week in London.
they beat. I mean, I don't think the Titans are that good, and I learned from my pick. But it's not like the Ravens are a pushover. On offense, I think there's been some trouble with the skill position guys. There's been some trouble with that receiving group. They had Zay Flowers has been very streaky, in my opinion. Odell is like I feel like Odell is like kind of, I think he's so overhyped now. Not to say he was never once a good player, but I think after leaving the Giants, I really feel like he's never been the same player. And it's whether it's injuries, whether it's off the field stuff, it's just okay. He's just a guy now. He's never going to be a star again. He's just a guy. So I'm not going to get into my pick yet with the betting stuff and also the final prediction, but we do have some questions in the chat that I'd be definitely happy to answer and comments to address. Charles Barkley asking, fantasy question, Aaron Jones or James Cook, Puka or DK? Ooh, that's a pretty good one. Well, in terms of Aaron Jones, right, he's the biggest thing with him has been the injuries so far. There's been a few times where AJ Dillon's had to start. I had AJ Dillon.
Aaron Jones is back today, apparently.
No, I know. Coming off the bye really helped him because he's been limited at times. But just keeping a note on that. But Denver's run defense is awful. They allow like the biggest explosive run plays, and also like they're the fourth highest in like yards after contact. So keep that in mind with Aaron Jones. He does have a very, very favorable matchup. And then when you have James Cook, right? James Cook, we talked about a little bit about him last week. Now his usage has been like up and down, and the reason why I'd say you start Aaron Jones in this spot is because he doesn't get the pass snaps, James Cook. So it kind of hurts his value a little. Not to say like he's still been very efficient, like he's still been a solid back, but I'd rather lean Aaron Jones in a more favorable matchup. And then you got Puka and DK. Now, funny, the best pick I've had all year has been Puka Nacua in terms of the waiver wire pickup. But it's been even when Cooper Kupp returned, like the usage for Nacua has still been there. I know he had a stinker last week, but it was his first bad one, really. But he's still getting targets. It's not that they haven't used him. They're going to use Kupp and Nacua, so that's really not a problem. And Nacua is going to go up against Levi Wallace, who's had an okay season. Patrick Peterson's not the same guy as he once was, so keep that in mind, especially if they're going to find all that attention to Cooper Kupp. Nacua might be able to have a matchup advantage there. And then you also said DK Metcalf, who, again, we talked a little about Geno, but I'm pretty sure Metcalf was limited Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how much practice time he really did get. Now, again, he does have a favorable matchup against.
He's considered a game time decision.
Right. So just from that, I'd say Nacua is the safer option to go with, Charles. So I'd say, to answer your question, Jones and Puka. Armin giving out his NFC team saying Niners, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys, Seahawks are the top five. Rams could be fifth instead of Seahawks. Okay, that's debatable. Armin also saying per rap sheet, yes, we read that earlier. We talked about that. Ron Effect, Odell's best years were with the Giants, and people don't want to say it because they hate the Giants.
They're right.
It was cool back in the day to.
I actually give a whole background story on that too with Odell and the importance of athletes protecting their image in the public eye. I went on a whole thing and how Odell basically derailed his career. Mm-hmm. He did it himself.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't hate the guy, but like, there's some when people make stupid decisions, they make stupid
Like
decisions.
this one from Almighty.
Yeah, I mean, just
What?
like, dude,
Why?
Giving up Zay
you need
Flowers and Ridley
you
to
need
get
to you
Olave,
need to
that's
you
not
need
going to work.
you need to like he was already in at least via what he told us, he was already in the dumper in fantasy. But I mean, like,
To give up Zay Flowers with Ridley just to get Olave doesn't help. Olave's been cold.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Deontay
been really
Johnson.
cold, and Zay Flowers has been the most positive of the three guys.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
This was my jumping off point. That's when I said no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, because I was watching, that was the first year I was watching Ron's channel. I'm pretty sure that was his jumping off point too, when he had the whole interview with Josina Anderson and Lil Wayne. But
Don't get me
bro,
started on Josina.
I think Luca said to us on Monday that he was standing right next to her and didn't even know it when he was on the field. So pretty interesting take right there. Though, do you have any thoughts before we go into top matchups, Sir Brian?
Listen, this is the most important thing to note. I really think this is going to be a game that there shouldn't have been a spread. It should have been an even. It really should have been. The way this game is going to go, these are two high-powered teams with a lot at the stake here. The Ravens are trying to prove themselves to everybody that they are still a good team despite the two rough losses they've had to the Colts and to the Steelers. They're trying to prove that their offense is just going through a rough patch and that they're going to get straight. The Lions are trying to prove to people we aren't some kind of team who's just gotten lucky. We are a good football team, and we're going to continue to prove that. And they got to get a win in Baltimore to prove that. And it's not going to be easy for them. No Dave Montgomery today. Jahmyr Gibbs apparently isn't the healthiest, but he's got to be a full go with all the snaps, taking the majority of everything in the backfield. So he's going to get a lot of attention today. If he gets hurt, God forbid, it's Craig Reynolds' show. And they've got a lot of questions in the backfield, even though, they haven't been – I don't think they've been the best in the backfield this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've been like Montgomery's been really good, but I think overall their run attack hasn't been, the best. I think it's been.
Let's see.
Montgomery's been great.
He has been. It's been a pleasant surprise to see that.
I think you will see aggression though, because like they didn't even use Jahmyr Gibbs when. Let's see. Montgomery went out last week?
Eighth rushing offense. They're not the top. The Ravens' rushing attack is actually better.
Right, but my question is also as well, and this would take a lot of time, but just like the question to ask is, how much of their rushing attack, is going to be used today, and how much is it outside of David Montgomery?
I'm sure that they're going to continue to use the ground a lot. Even when Montgomery went down last week, their answer was to use Craig Reynolds, and he was used in a lot of blocking schemes. He wasn't very effective on the ground, but when they use him out in passing situations, if they threw a screen, they'd roll him out as a blocker, and he was making some crazy blocks downfield to open up some lanes, and they were getting like 30-yard chunk plays out of it. He's more than just a running back. He's a really good blocker and pass protector. So because of that, they've got a huge advantage in that end, and for y'all who don't know, this team is 6th in the league in passing right now because of how good Jared Goff has been. Protection hasn't been phenomenal, but overall, the passing attack has been great. And Jameson Williams is finally starting to get his legs together, start really getting an increased role in this offense. Amon-Ra still performing at a good level. I heard he's still a little bit banged up. He's not 100%, but he's still going. Laporta, same boat. And, I mean, Josh Reynolds may be the only other guy you could group in there saying who's been overall consistent throughout the season as a good, reliable target for Jared. And that's the big thing. But for the Ravens, if they want to win this game, they can't just rely on just their defense. Their defense is the second best in the league by far, behind only the Browns. And his defense is known for being very aggressive in every aspect. And Humphrey, he hasn't been, to me, great to start since he's come back from injury. But their run defense should do the job today. They should be able to handle everything. It's the pass game I'm worried about for them. And that goes on the offensive side too. Lamar's got to create some passes. He's got to limit the turnovers. Oh my goodness, you have to fix the turnovers. Because I have 3 keys to the game, and I say this every week whenever I do a review. This is the 3. You got to control the time of possession. You got to limit your turnovers. And you got to complete your drives, whether it comes down to field goals or touchdowns. If you kick a field goal, it's a completed drive to me. But that's the 3 you need. If you win in all 3 aspects, you win a football game. You never lose if you control all 3. If the Ravens can do that, they'll win. Which means extend your plays, play game management style. You don't need gigantic big plays. However, deep passing is Detroit's biggest weakness. I don't know if you guys know that.
Seems like
that's
they're very much more
deal.
Intermediate, like horizontal.
Because here's how I'll explain it. If I could find the tapes of all the missed passes from Baker Mayfield last week, you'd understand how bad the line secondary can get once you run deep routes on them.
And that's the one worry for me this game is like their secondary is not as good as the Ravens statistically.
I gotta see if I can find it. There's got to be a YouTube video out
like
there.
Jerry Jacobs only goes up to a certain point. Let's see.
Baker Mayfield
Notable
missed
people
passes.
I've passed by: Matt Ryan, Tiki Barber, and Bob Papa. Well, do introduce yourself to some folks.
Don't be shy. And remember, Luca, don't
He
trick
did
and
it.
drive.
He did it last week. But yeah, Sir Bob Papa. I can't wait to maybe I'll check out my hand next week when I'm there.
Yeah,
I wish they were
I
showing this
forgot.
game on
Tampa's
TV.
got an injury concern today. Oh man, I forgot.
My only concern about the Lions is who's their back going to be. That's absolutely, yeah. Craig Reynolds also injured. Yeah, what's up to Burn Paul sack? Yep, it covers most of the East Coast map. What are you looking up, Brian?
I'm looking to find the clip of some bad plays that I had seen. If they would have completed some deep passes, they would have had some opportunities to win. And I'm trying to see all the overthrows that happened. I mean, there were some really bad plays that they could have won on, and they missed them big time. So I'm trying to find some clips to understand that it was a winnable game last week for Tampa. They screwed up. The line secondary gets very lucky sometimes, and it could really mean a lot. So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to present that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have it.
I have it. It's from a film study a fan did on Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
And his performance. And again, Baker did not look good. It was his worst game of the year. So I'm just going to present that real quick.
What a shot.
Let me share the screen. I'm going to share the Baker Mayfield was bad window. All right. So this is the window I've got here. Let's go full screen. This is what I've got, right? So when you watch it, here's one play, the 3rd and 12 play. Right here. You see Evans waiting for it? This ball is poorly delivered to Evans, and he's unable to hold on to it. So this rocket fire that wasn't needed, he can't hold on to it. So he had receivers dropping passes, right? And they're going to keep replaying it, and I hate that. Let me see. Here's another one, 1st and 10. Look at this deep ball. Right here, completely beat. Trey Palmer's got the edge on him big time. Safety got cooked on a simple post route going deep. That's like a 40-yard pass. He overthrows Trey Palmer. He completes that. It's a tie game. So he had the opening. He has the guys. You can beat them on the deep ball. But if you don't complete the passes, they get very lucky and they capitalize on it. And they get bailed out on a blown coverage. And they keep showing it over and over again. Here's another one. Right here. This is 4th quarter early. You complete this. That's another touchdown easily. One more time. Right here. Beaten again. Trey Palmer, a rookie 4th round pick from Nebraska, is burning these corners. And so Mayfield, if he completes these passes, they're good. Here's another one they're showing. Another beat here. This guy's in man protection. And this receiver has him beat once again. Baker needs to make this throw. And does he? Yes. He completes that one. That was a decent pass, but he threw it to the sideline. A little more inside. He could have possibly turned it upfield. Another pass coming here. I believe this was another deep pass, and this one was in the 3rd quarter. Let me see if it plays. Right here. He goes to dump it off. It's right behind the guy. He makes that play. He may get the 1st down.
Nah, he wouldn't have gotten it.
He would have got close at least.
Brian, there's 2 defenders, right?
No, it would have been close. I'm telling you. He's coming full speed. I know, but this guy, because Sean Vaughn could have made him move.
If he throws it in stride, then yeah, he could. I don't think he'll get the 1st down. It'll be close, but if he throws it like still behind him, then whoever's coming up on that tackle is going to make it.
All right, but I'm stopping the share in there. I'm telling you guys, this is what it means. I mean, there was a couple drop passes, as Charles Barkley notes. Mike Evans has been having really bad drop issues this year. And some of the passes he catches those, and he's got the yardage he needs. They're getting big plays, touchdowns, everything. So he really needs to fix that up. But you guys get what I'm saying, right? You have a couple passes where if you complete them, you're right back in the game. And he wasn't completing them.
Right.
And he was missing. And it was the rookie every time. A rookie fourth rounder who has all the speed in the world and is burning guys left and right. He's overthrowing or missing the passes and those targets. The Ravens have that guy in Zay Flowers. If Lamar makes those deep passes and he proves what he needs to do, right? You know, he wants to prove he's making the $40 million for a reason, right? This is the way to do it. You got to complete these deep passes because obviously Jerry Jacobs couldn't control them. Neither could Kirby. And Brian Branch is in today, I think, right? I think Branch is in.
To my knowledge, she's healthy.
Okay, so Branch is active. So now they got a big piece in their secondary back. But still, the point applies. The corners are having trouble with coverages here. If you burn them down, you're good. And I see that Almighty says he doesn't get what I'm saying. I mean, did you not watch
I think he's probably clowning around. That's what
I have a feeling he is. But still, the point is complete the deep pass and you're winning the game. And the question is, we've always said it, can Lamar do it? And we'll find out today. I hope he does. I'm actually pulling for the Ravens a little bit. I want them to prove people wrong.
I'm still going with well, I mean, I'm pulling for the Lions because they're a likable team. He said he was being sarcastic. So he was clowning around.
Okay,
but I think they could still do that with two things. Number one, I think Lamar does have he does have an aura about him. Well, he will miss passes. Not as bad as Baker Mayfield did in that game. But I think also there is a precision type passer characteristic about Lamar that he's not going to miss that. Number one. Number two, they got Odell Beckham Jr. too. And obviously he's not what he was. John brought that up earlier. But at the same time, you saw that big play he had against the Titans. What was it, last week in London? If he was 2015 Odell, he breaks that for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is getting me prepared for next week because I'm going next week. Giants are serving breakfast with some chicken cutlet sandwiches, bacon, egg sandwiches, waffles too. Well, I'm going to be digging into those waffles.
So there's where's my pork roll sandwiches?
You being picky, Brian?
Yes. I would like my pork roll sandwiches. Thank you.
No medium Pepsi? Well, I mean, they got the Pepsi cups, but you can make yourself a medium Pepsi. Giants are first class. Well, I mean, Luca after this game kind of has to give us
Luca, don't start with me. Luca, I swear to you.
What happened?
I swear to you.
Oh, no.
Don't ever call it that again. Don't ever call it that again. You sound like a real Philly person, buddy.
Oh, boy. Well, look at what we started.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Armand. Thank you.
But, what was I going to say?
Put that dummy in his place.
He's clowning around. But before we go back to the top matchups, I will say, though, Luke has to give us who is better with their catering, the Giants or the Jets. It's what's labeled on the sandwich. I could care less.
Oh, okay, fine. But you know what? Then wait, if that's what's labeled on the sandwich, okay.
You know what, Brian? How about you write an email to Pat Hanlon and complain?
Yeah. Get on it.
I will.
Okay.
I will complain.
All right.
Yes, Barbara, it is absolutely delicious. With salt, pepper, ketchup, it's perfect.
Moving forward to our top matchups, there's a lot of them, and I always attack the trenches first. Jadeveon Clowney, 3.5 sacks, 10 quarterback pressures, 9 quarterback hits, versus Penei Sewell, who has not given up a sack this season, and also 4 penalties, but that's the top matchups. Anyone want a waffle review? Yeah, sure. Give us a waffle review. I mean, that's been more my specialty lately. Moving forward, two guys who really haven't been up to par, at least for PFF, at least Taylor Decker. But anyway, Odafe Owe, who has no sacks on the season. He's still looking for number 1. 4 quarterback hits, 4 quarterback pressures, versus Taylor Decker, who has 3 penalties on the season and has given up a sack. Move to the inside. Justin Matabuki, who's the lead sacker on Baltimore, 4.5 sacks, 20 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback pressures and hits, versus Coyote Owasika, 4 pressures allowed last week versus the Bucs, and 1 sack allowed all season in his limited reps. The next one, this one's going to be really interesting. Now, he could come off the right side. He could come off the left side. But if he goes at the left side, I think personally it makes for a better matchup. But obviously, I'm not the judge of that. Ronnie Stanley versus Aiden Hutchinson. So, yeah. Hutchinson, 4.5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, but 24 quarterback pressures versus Ronnie Stanley, who's allowed 2 penalties and 2 sacks. And if he was going up against the right tackle, it'd be former Jet Morgan Moses. So I know John remembers that name very well. Anyway, moving forward, we'll go to the receiver in quarters. Marlon Humphrey versus Amon St. Brown. Humphrey this season has allowed a completion percentage of 50. Obviously dealing with some injuries, but he's given him 1 touchdown, 116.7 passer rating, 64 yards. That's a limited sample size, so I'll give him a fucking break there. Amon St. Brown, 455 yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 catches over 20 yards, and 38 receptions in 5 games. You move forward to the next matchup, a little bit more unknown by some. Josh Reynolds, who on the season is the second leading receiver for Detroit, 341 yards, 12 catches over 20 yards, 3 touchdowns, 19 receptions versus Ronald Darby, who I talked about earlier. So far, actually, let me just hold on.
Darby's getting cooked today.
Let's see. Hold on. I think I screwed something up a little bit, so my bad on that one. Okay. Ronald Darby has allowed a completion percentage of 45. 1 touchdown allowed, 75 passer rating, 120 yards. And that's in 4 games. So I would call that a good enough sample size, but he's been solid, more than people would expect.
I still think Reynolds wins it. I'm serious.
Okay. Odell Beckham Jr. versus Cam Sutton. Odell Beckham Jr., he is the 4th leading receiver, which is a little bit of a shocker on Baltimore. 113 yards. He's still without a touchdown and 9 receptions. So
Odell will be on the sideline by the end of the second quarter.
Injury or bench?
Injury.
Okay. Does that specify? Cam Sutton. Let's talk about Cam Sutton. I can pull up his stats right now. And Brian kind of alluded it earlier. There's a certain ceiling with this Detroit secondary. 56.7 completion percentage allowed, 1 touchdown, 187 yards, 86.4 passer rating. You move to the rookie Zay Flowers versus Jerry Jacobs. Zay Flowers has been the leading receiver. He caught his first touchdown last week. 367 yards on 35 receptions and 6 plays over 20 yards versus Jerry Jacobs, who has allowed a 61.2 completion percentage, 3 picks this season, 2 touchdowns allowed, and a passer rating of 66.1. Now, 2 more matchups to go. You do have Sam Laporta versus either Roquan Smith or Kyle Hamilton. Personally, it would be a little bit more entertaining to see him against Kyle Hamilton. But Laporta on the season, last week dealt with an injury, was playing through that. 3 touchdowns on the season, 4 plays over 20, 325 yards, 29 receptions. Compare that to the guys he's facing up against. Roquan Smith, 74.3 completion percentage in coverage, which is not good. No touchdowns allowed, though, 247 yards and a 93.4 passer rating. Kyle Hamilton, who's had the lower stats, completion percentage, and also passer rating, 1 interception, 53.3 completion percentage, 29 yards allowed. That's 3.6 yards per completion, 1.9 yards per target, and a 31.3 passer rating. So I think if you're going to shut down Sam Laporta, that's your best bet, placing Kyle Hamilton on him. And then Alex Anzalone versus Mark Andrews. It could also be Brian Branch, but Mark Andrews on this season, he's the second leading target. 5 catches over 20, 3 touchdowns, 294 yards, 24 receptions. And then as for Anzalone, he's given up 1 touchdown in coverage, 63 completion percentage, 87.7 passer rating, and 135 yards. Let me see what the comments are saying. Got some bacon, eggs, and a waffle on my plate. Okay, all right. So he's got the breakfast.
Ooh, I got a bad joke Giants fans won't like.
Oh, good God!
If I make a joke about the waffle, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm a good person.
Oh my God!
Armand's right though. Hot sauce over salt, pepper, ketchup all day. It's so good.
I know what Brian's going to say, but
what am I going to say?
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it.
Fine. Do you want me to say it?
No, I don't want
you know what I'm going to say.
No.
No. You don't know.
Yes, I do.
I 100% get it. There's no chance.
I don't know. Luca, thanks again for being an Eagle. Still happy over it.
I
Okay.
don't think I'll be back on the show if I say it. I'm going to be honest with
That's
Okay, so we'll leave it for off of the camera. Anyway, let's go into stat predictions. So I'm doing this in stride. Who is the leading passer? I must say, who is the leading passer? It's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna grind it out with Jared Goff, and I'm gonna say he gets. I don't think he throws a pick this game. I think he gets a touchdown. And let me go 235 yards.
all right. I'm going with Jared Goff too.
Make sure you mark it in the doc.
Well, yes, I am, and
I think Jared Goff is going to be the leading receiver, definitely. I mean, the leading passer today. Yeah, leading passer. I caught myself. Leading passer. caught myself.
I can't with him. I'm gonna go Jared Goff. I'll give him 260 yards. I'll give him 2 touchdowns. Or screw it, he's getting 3 touchdowns today.
Oof. Got chills.
Okay. All right. Okay. And Brian gave his.
Yep, I said Goff, leading passer.
Okay. Leading rusher. I'm gonna say Lamar Jackson. I think that's a little bit easier than most would
Just
expect.
want to be different. Okay.
Yeah. Today I'm gonna be mainstream. Let me go and say 60 yards and a touchdown.
6. Okay. All right.
All right, I got Lamar Jackson. I'll give them 75 yards.
I'm going to be a little bit different. I'll say Detroit will have the better run game today. Actually, no, I take it back. Ravens. And I'm going to say it's not Lamar. It'll be Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards will be leading rusher with like 50-something yards. Because he's yet to be like a leading rusher, I think, in a game yet this season. So why not now? If Lamar can't run the ball anyway because they're going to contain him in the pocket the whole time, they're going to have to go to Edwards.
I don't. John probably knows this. Maybe Brian does or doesn't. Gus Edwards is a. Let's see, what high school did he go to? I think he went to Tottenville, actually. Gus Edwards.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
I hate
I learned.
Tottenville.
Me too.
I think everybody hates Tottenville. I have too many bad experiences from people I know there. Too many.
Yeah, he went to Tottenville. So he actually, it's interesting. He started out at Miami and then went to Rutgers. So I guess, all right. But that's a little fun, little
Producing some
factoid.
good players, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gus is dinged up a little bit, but he should be fine. I mean, if Lamar can't get anything going, they're not going to have a choice. They got to force him to run.
Okay, so lead receiver, I'm going to go with Odell Beckham Jr. A little bit of my fanboyism coming out. Let me go with. It's not going to be much. I'm going to go 70 yards.
I'll let you have your moment. Okay. Go ahead, John.
I'm going to go. You know what? Going to go with Josh Reynolds today.
Ooh, okay.
Josh Reynolds. And I'll cap him at like 85 yards.
This is going to be really. This is just me going to be edgy, just because I want to be a little different, and I want to be a risk. I want to be a risk taker today. A risk taker with these things.
Okay.
I'm going to get risky. Let's go Jahmyr Gibbs, leading receiver. He's going to get the Kamara treatment. Get 75 in the air.
Okay.
That's risky, all right. We're definitely out of the box.
If they're going to use him like a dual threat back, they better use him like one. 75 yards in the air, receiving. They want to use him like a dual threat. Treat him like a dual threat.
All right. I'm going to go with lead tackler. I'm going to go ahead and say Kyle Hamilton at 11 tackles.
Not bad.
I'm going with Roquan Smith at 8 tackles.
Roquan Smith. Damn.
I
I'm
like
going to go
how
with Anzalone as I always do. Man's a beast. I think Anzalone I'm going to have to go with here. Probably 6, 7 touchdowns. Say might even have a sack if they blitz him. So I'm thinking Anzalone's going to be the guy.
All right. By the way, I believe John friggin' because we're working on a Google Doc here. I believe John accidentally deleted my prediction for Sir Jared Goff.
I didn't delete I didn't delete anything.
So I had to re-edit it.
No, you put it in the wrong spot.
I did?
Yeah, you put it in the wrong spot. I didn't delete anything.
And listen, in the words
Clown.
of Urinating Tree on YouTube, congratulations, you did it. Good job.
So congratulations to me for being drowsy and stupid. Okay. All right, let's go with leading sacker. I'm gonna say. Let me go Jadeveon Clowney with 1.
Ooh, Jadeveon Clowney.
I got my guy Aiden Hutchinson at 1 today. He's gonna get
I'm riding the clown train.
Yes. That's why your font is in red.
I had a feeling that was coming. I should have known. You know what? I'm actually not in on Hutchinson this week just because of what happened last week. You know what happened last week, John, right?
Did he get shut down?
Yeah. He faced up against that guy I told you I was worried about this year, Luke Gadecki. They moved him out to right tackle. Remember how I said he's been proving himself a lot lately? Yeah. He had to face up against Hutchinson. He didn't allow him to even get a single QB pressure.
Yeah, remember when?
And that's nuts because he has been a big struggle, and they finally found a right tackle, but the Bucs interior line has been completely terrible.
Remember when Professor Angry John also said the Bucs have allowed the least sacks this year? And
no, but I'm talking like in terms of the run game, not like in terms of like pass protection.
But we're talking about
in the run game. We can't open.
We're talking about pass protection. We just said lead sack, did we not?
We did, but I'm using it as a Hutchinson reference. That's why I'm using it as a Hutchinson reference. So I'm not picking Hutchinson.
He's getting a mulligan.
A mulligan?
Yeah, he's getting a mulligan.
I can't. I give up.
I give up.
I can't.
Guys, we gave up a long time ago. Let's see. The sacks today. Right now, leading sacker is Hutchinson. I'm going to say McNeil today. I'll say McNeil gets involved. Sack and a half.
Solid.
All right, Lee McNeil. So that will do it for this game. Now we could go a couple of different ways. We could we're an hour and 47 and we could go into another mini preview, or we could skip right into the fantasy and betting.
It's your call. I also forgot to say who I'm picking today.
Oh, I'm stupid, drowsy, tired, everything. We didn't even do game picks. That's another bluff on me.
You're welcome.
John, you'll take it first, I guess.
Give me the Lions 27-21. I'll be right back to you.
All right. Yeah, I put it in the wrong spot, so I do admit that was because I just looked at the score predictions now, like the doc we have, and I put my Jared Goff passing there. Anyway.
Okay.
Let me go. I feel like Baltimore needs to prove themselves. I don't remember what I picked on the Book of Wonder. I'll let Brian go. We
already saw me pull up the jersey, so I'm going with the Lions today with the Giants legend Kenny Golladay on the back.
When did you get that?
I got that right before, I think a year or two before we ended up going to New York.
So like 2019.
Yeah, right around then. Right before COVID is probably around
that
the time
was
I
his,
got
that
it.
was his
I'm
best
taking the
season.
Lions, though. This is going to be a really much of a slobber knocker game. This is going to be back and forth. Very defensive matchup. If you're asking me, do the Ravens have a lot to prove and can they win this game? That's yes to both. But do I think it's actually going to happen? No. I think Detroit has the edge. Goff is going to continue to show why he is 13-4 in his last 17 games. They're going to have a good performance today and do well enough on offense in order to hold off the Ravens. I say they win by a touchdown. Give me a score of 20-13.
Okay. By the way, Luca is still owing us a waffle review. What's up to Grega? Lions 24-21. As I said, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who I picked. It could have been the Lions. I think. Yeah. I do think
sent you the joke I was going to make in the private chat. You might.
Yes, I saw that.
Did you read it? How bad would people react to that? Honestly.
Let's see. It's not terrible. Like, I mean, I wouldn't get offended. Is that Raisin
John,
Bran?
What'd you think of it?
Raisin Bran it is.
What are you, 80?
Why do you have something against my cereal choice?
Because Frosted Flakes is better.
It could be worse. I just eat Cheerios, so.
I'm on Brian's team.
I like
I
Cheerios.
want Cheerio squad.
I'm not a hater.
Anyway, John, what did I pick in the Book of Wonder for this game?
You picked.
Because I want to be consistent.
You and Luca both picked Baltimore. I'm the only one going with the Lions.
Okay, I kind of had a gut feeling that I was going with Baltimore, so I'm going to go Baltimore. And I'm going to say, give me 23-17.
Luca, if you thought the waffle was tough, you guys can pull out the food thing. Luca, if you thought the waffle was tough, I got some bad news for you, buddy. I got some bad news. Somebody who's worked in catering and food service, I'll tell you right now. There's a reason why it's tough. There's a very big reason why it's been sitting a while. If you thought it was made today, you are absolutely wrong.
So that's a poo-poo on the Giants.
You're
That's
eating a day-old waffle.
I like Armin's comment. He goes, Raisin Man. Okay, Grandpa John.
All right.
Fancy question
the way
here.
he's fandom is with the Jets, he'll be a grandpa by the time they win a Super Bowl.
You know, I thought this said Mark Andrews at first, but it says Mark Andriotti. Deontay or Pittman?
Pittman.
Now, let me explain, Brian.
He's giving his take. He gets a mulligan.
Jesus. Anyway, now with Deontay Johnson coming off injury with a hamstring, I believe that was his injury. So not really much numbers to go with him this year, just because he's only played in 2 games, so it's not the best sample size. Nevertheless, it's Deontay Johnson, I'd say, is more of a flex play at best, just because this Steelers offense has been pretty dreadful to watch. But Michael Pittman, here's the thing with Pittman, right? He ranks 26th and 12th in 26 in deep targets, 12th in red zone targets, and he's had a red zone target, first 5 of the 6 games that he's played. The issue with Pittman is he's going up against the Browns, and the Browns use a lot of man coverage, okay? And they pretty much have probably one of the best defenses, not just this year, but this has been a historical defense. Excuse me. My God.
Some interesting news real quick.
Go
It's
ahead.
just been confirmed that McCaffrey's going to play tomorrow night.
Fantasy team W, yes.
No.
Yeah, I don't have Debo Samuel for 4 weeks, so I'm kind of screwed.
Now, with Pittman, right, he's going to run against Denzel Ward. And Denzel Ward, I have it on, I pulled up the stats. Denzel Ward, catch rate of 48%, pass rating of 90. Martin Emerson really been so good all year for the Browns. One of the more underrated corners. 30% catch rate, 35 passer rating. So it's very tough. Now, I know I just said I don't like the Steelers offense, but I really don't like the matchup for Pittman today. So I'm going to lean Deontay Johnson.
Also, as well, Pat Fryermuth is on IR, so that kind of gives him a little bit more of a target share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So just wanted to add that in too.
Yep.
But before I bluff again, that is the end of the preview. So as I said, we could go into some fantasy, some betting. I think we could start out. We can actually, because that's a fantasy question, so we could probably do some segue into some fantasy advice. Brian?
And John, I'm going to ask you real quick a couple fantasy questions because my team got beat down last week because Debo got hurt. If Debo doesn't get hurt, I may have probably won last week, and I didn't. So let me ask you a couple questions before we get started.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, I'm in a bit of a pickle. So I grabbed the Jaguars defense and Brandon McManus as my kicker because I didn't want to drop Brandon Aubrey. So I had Khalil Herbert available to put on IR. I did that, open up a roster spot. And I ended up picking up another tight end as well because Dalton Schultz is on a bye. So I grabbed Luke Musgrave for today against Denver. Was that a good or bad move?
Well, was he the only option available?
He was one of the best options available. Everybody else who was a good option is on a bye week.
You see, I haven't been a big fan of the Packers offense, but this kind of ties into the Aaron Jones thing because Denver has been a dream matchup, not only for running backs, but for tight ends. They've allowed the most receiving yards, second highest yards per reception, and the most fantasy points to tight ends. So you might have a really good, sneaky good pickup for this week at least.
Yeah, and it's only going to be for this week. After this, he's gone. I also have today Herbert and Eckler again against Kansas City. I can't really make any substitutions there. Jahmyr Gibbs is starting today for me against Baltimore. If I don't start him, I'm going to have to go Brian Robinson Jr., who's sitting on my bench. And that's a tough call because Gibbs is going to have a massive workload, right? But again, we know how Brian Robinson's been this year. He's been a little flashy in a lot of games. But against the Giants' terrible run defense, can he thrive and give me like 15 at minimum?
I'll say this with Brian Robinson Jr. Since week 3, it's so hard with the Commanders and running backs because in a lot of games they are trailing a lot, so it's a bad game script for running backs for them. And in the last 4 games, actually, his snap percentage has been around 36 to 37%. So
Gibson's been getting the bulk.
Yeah, especially in like the passing game, right?
I wouldn't say. I'm gonna be honest. And I was doing a preview this week with Corey Sanchez of On the Warpath. I wouldn't say Gibson was getting the bulk. I'm gonna look up
stats. Not the bulk, but he is taking snaps away.
Okay,
in a sense, because he, from what I've been told, he's put the ball on the ground a lot. And if you look at rushing numbers, Sam Howell's their second leading rusher. It's not Antonio Gibson. So Gibson, you might value Gibson a little. I mean, not that you're valuing Gibson. You're talking about Brian Robinson here, but he's more valued in the passing game. But I mean, again, we'll see what happens. But I'm
making a tight end change. I just realized somebody didn't pick somebody up. I'm going to capitalize right now.
Why?
So tell us.
Michael Mayer is still available. He's at Chicago, but Brian Hoyer's the quarterback. Is he actually going to throw to him is the question. Will he throw to Mayer?
A tight end is a quarterback's best friend.
So you think Mayer is the pick then? Go at Mayer, get rid of Musgrave.
I mean, look at the screen, Brian.
Yeah, I got to do it then. I don't have it.
I do like Luke Musgrave, though. I don't want to say I like his matchup a lot.
So you want me to go with Mayer over Musgrave or keep Musgrave? Honest question. Because again, you're going against a 32nd ranked pass defense against
Kenny.
But Musgrave's been cold.
I like Mayer's future better than Musgrave, but I wouldn't be surprised if Musgrave had a really good game. But I don't think you can go either wrong with either one.
Okay, so I'm gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna leave Mayer for this week. I'm gonna leave it with Musgrave. I'll try to pick up Mayer off the waiver wire. God forbid he has a massive game and somebody goes after him. But we'll see. He's been getting a lot more attention in that offense, and I like it. I'm keeping an eye on it.
And it's raising man pretty good.
I got AJ Brown starting today against Miami, Terry McLaurin against the Giants, and I got Pittman against Cleveland, which, it's either I go with that or on my bench, who do we have? We have Brian Robinson Jr., Rashad White, Jamison Williams, and Kenny Gainwell.
Your point about McLaurin, Adoree Jackson's probably not going to play today.
Oh, yeah, so I'm good. So, again, it's me now debating, can I trust Michael Pittman with Gardner Minshew at quarterback? Like you said, he's a must-sit today. Don't add him. Can I trust Pittman to get decent yardage against that Cleveland defense?
No.
I wouldn't say that, no.
And would you keep him over Brian Robinson here?
In the flex play?
Yeah.
I'm leaning toward Brian Robinson.
I have that lean as well.
Because I also have J-Mo, but I don't think J-Mo's going to do much against Baltimore today.
No, I wouldn't bet on it.
Okay, so I'll move him. So I'm going to trust you here, and I'm going to move him in place of Michael Pittman Jr.
Okay. If
I lose this game, it's your fault, John.
No.
You know that.
A-Bomb says Watson is active for the first time in a month. So another fantasy question: Should he start Najee Harris?
Do not like Najee Harris.
Yeah, don't. Najee's been so disappointing. I've already talked to Steelers fans about it too. They're all on the same page. They want him gone.
That's my only option. The rest of the running backs on a bye. I think you need some fantasy counseling.
I think he needs to go to counseling to figure
What's
this
up
out.
to Jacob in the chat? I can't get him in, and John's eating Lucky Charms. He's actually eating
It's
the
not
Grandpa
Lucky Charms.
It's the Grandpa cereal. It's Lucky Charms if you're 97 years old.
Raisin Bran.
It's Raisin Bran. So, John, if you want to dig into some of your fantasy advice.
I'd love to. All right, class, pay attention as I continue to eat my Raisin Bran. First guy on the list, on our list today, Gardner Minshew, right? Unfortunately, we kind of broke the news. It was last week or 2 weeks ago about Anthony Richardson.
It was last week.
Last week. Well, Minshew started last week, right? And it wasn't a good showing. Not that he can't move the ball down the field, but Minshew ranked 29th out of 34 quarterbacks in passing grade and 18th in yards per attempt. So they're going to have a very tough time throwing the ball, especially against the Cleveland Browns today. And he's been, I feel like the turnover-worthy plays have been in an increase for Gardner Minshew based on the film I've seen. So it's kind of like, cause for pause. And I mentioned that Browns defense, they don't allow a lot of yards per attempt, fourth lowest passer rating for quarterbacks, and they have a top 5 pressure rate. That's a recipe for disaster for Minshew. So, don't get him. But here's a bigger name that I'm on the bandwagon to go sit. Russell Wilson. He's been awful since week 2, as I'm going to take a bite of my yummy Raisin Bran. But with Russell Wilson, right, he's come back to earth after those first good 2 weeks. It's more so, with Denver, right, because they are facing the Packers today. They have an okay defense, but Wilson's still, like, almost every stat below average in, like, every category. Like, there's nothing he's great at. There's nothing he's the worst at, but it's been pretty bad. But he also doesn't have that many passing touchdowns, which, again, those touchdowns really can boost your numbers a little. As, Wilson used to be a guy in Seattle. Remember, he had seasons where he had 40 touchdowns, 30 touchdowns, 35, 31, 34, right? Wilson was 12 of 4, which is better than last year. He only had 16 of 11, but that's still, in 6 games, that's only 2 touchdowns a game. And you're kind of like, okay, like, it's not horrible for NFL standards, but not for fantasy standards. We need better numbers than that. So do not play Russell Wilson, please, guys. Please don't play him.
Don't make that mistake, people.
Don't. It's
Don't drink and drive.
That too. It's Broncos country. Let's die. But nevertheless, we move on to the running back spot. Chuba Hubbard. Now, Miles Sanders has been banged up. I forget. He still is on IR, if I'm not mistaken?
Let's take a look at that.
If someone wants to.
Chuba Hubbard?
No. Miles Sanders.
Okay. I'd assume so. Let's see. Miles Sanders.
Or is he just ruled out?
I think let me look at the Panthers injury report, because this says he's not on the IR.
Okay.
Miles Sanders. Yeah, there's no injury report for week 8 for the Panthers.
I just had to bench Samuel, so Pickens has to start.
Wait, what happened?
So Samuel hurt. I had to go whatever receiver wasn't on a bye week, so I have to start George Pickens in my other league.
Well, I mean, that's fine. Well, I also believe the Panthers have a bye.
Yeah, the Panthers are on a bye.
Yeah, but that's fine because, Sanders is going to really play last week, but that's fine. Here's a guy you might want to pick up, though, Chuba Hubbard. As soon as he started with no Miles Sanders, Hubbard looked phenomenal last week. He had a touchdown last week. And I have to say, I looked at Sanders' stats. Hubbard has had probably their best running game for the Panthers out of any rushing attack that Sanders has put up all year long. I'll read you some of the numbers for Chuba Hubbard in last week's contest if I can pull up the game log because I had it up earlier. But Hubbard last week, 4.6 yards per attempt, 19 attempts, 88 yards, had a rushing touchdown. Also caught a ball, 1 reception. That's fine. He had about 15 fantasy points. That's pretty much better than anything Miles Sanders has done. So I'd be very shocked if Carolina still went with Miles Sanders for much longer because he just hasn't proved it. And Almighty makes a great point. Miles Sanders has pretty much looked trash without that Eagles offensive line.
And he's still a turnover machine.
Good point, Brian. Anyway, next guy. A lot of news. Jonathan Taylor, right? Be kind of like questioning what is his role going to be. He had, remember, the holdout kind of thing. It's all the trade rumors, all the noise and nonsense. But I'll say this: the workload is back up for Taylor. He got a bunch of targets a bunch of attempts in the red zone. So don't worry about the lack of explosion runs. He's still getting back into form. You should see the snaps carry this week, especially because the Colts are going to have to run the ball against Cleveland in order to win this game, which I think they will do. So expect that to go up. And Cleveland is not as good as the run defense as the pass defense. So, again, this is the area where the Colts are going to attack. I expect Taylor to do good today. We'll move on to some wide receivers, guys. And then I know any questions you guys have, I promise I will answer. Just want to get through some guys. Here's a guy you might want to stash, and I said it in week 1. Kendrick Bourne, we don't know what's going to happen with Mac Jones, Bailey Zapp, right? But he's a guy that you might want to start now, but you could start come playoff time or, come later down the line, because when he's right and when they target him and feature him, he's done great. I want to take a look at something, guys. The 2 games that he's been the most targeted, right? Or the 2 games where they really featured him a lot, week 1 and week 6. Week 1, 18 points. Last week, only 9 points. But again, Mac Jones has stunk. Yet, he's had more than 10 targets in both those games and more than 60 yards. So, he's been pretty solid when they do feature him. So, he's a guy you might want to stash and keep an eye on him. Now, Brian, this next man, as you can see on my list, is your team.
Chris Godwin.
Yeah, Chris Godwin. I consider him probably a good flex play.
Yes.
I wouldn't say he's wide out 1, or you can maybe get away with wide out 2, but I consider a really good flex play. Because he's had his struggles this season. He only had 1 game of more than 80 receiving yards, right?
Yeah, but the last couple of games, he has been really getting more receptions and attention than Evans has. And that's, again, coming from an offense that's, still bottom 10 in passing in the league.
Right. And it's not like, he still has a target share of like 22%. The air yard share, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's like how the ball is how far it's thrown. It's like an advanced stat while it's in the air and how you're targeted. So, and in man coverage with the Falcons play 6th highest in league, the targets share for Godwin has jumped by 25%. So, and he's going to probably, with Mike Evans drawing the number 1 matchup against AJ Terrell, that means Chris Godwin's going to have Jeffrey Okudah on him, who's been solid, but at times has been streaky. So, again, Brian actually talked about this, some of the missed throws from Mayfield. That's why I say flex play, just because it's very hard. It's very hit or miss. And I think he could be a solid flex play. I think he gets you about 10 to 15 points this week.
It's going to be heavy relying on can he complete the passes, like you said. But again, Godwin's been the leading guy for them the last couple of weeks. Evans has been struggling a lot. So
even then, the drops from Mike Evans, yeah.
Jacob just said something to me. How you feel about Tampa taking a QB this year in the draft? Listen, if we do it, we do it. I don't care. I mean, look, Baker hasn't played abysmal, but the offense isn't necessarily doing well in the passing game after doing so well with Brady leading the way. So, it's just happens.
Right. All right, tight end time. We talked about him earlier, Michael Mayer. He's week 6, he played 81% of the snaps, right? Target share of 18%. He's been extremely efficient too, and he's not a guy that's going to get a lot of red zone or deep targets, but he's a guy that's going to get you yak up the receiving yards. Okay, he's got 8th most fantasy points for tight ends as a rookie. Remember, guys, this guy is not he's a rookie, 1st round pick out of Notre Dame, right? It's finally starting. Week 5, 2 catches, 39 yards. Okay, they finally started featuring him a little. Last week against New England, 5 catches on 6 targets, 75 yards. I really like him going forward because other than Devontae Adams, I don't really know who else they're going to feel safe with. I mean, I know They got like Hunter Renfrow, but in terms of like safety valves, I think Michael Mayer is going to be very good for whoever's quarterback for the Raiders. So he might be someone to pick up in your league. As Brian's raising his hand. You know what? Thank you. No, thank you, Brian. You rose your hand correctly and you looked at me, so I could tell. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, I did. Again, you are Professor John. I have to treat you like a professor.
Well, does he know the Luca thing?
Yeah, so what was it, last week or the week before? Luca was about to leave. Actually, it was last week because I think you came on late because I obviously had to swap Luca out. And he was about to leave or something. He wanted to ask a question or say something. He raises his hand, but he does it like this.
It's like, dude, wait, why? Just go like this. Like, I just sit here and I do this. If nobody's looking at it, just go like this. Like, come on.
He's off his game.
So I'm reading through the injury reports real quick, right?
Right.
We have got some interesting developments.
Okay.
So Craig Reynolds is active today for Lions, but guess who's out for them?
Jahmyr Gibbs?
Jerry Jacobs, the starting corner. Jacobs has actually been pretty solid this year. So that opens up a hole now for somebody to capitalize, which would be either Zay Flowers or Rashad Bateman. One of the two is going to benefit.
Is Bateman injured?
I thought he was back already. Wasn't he just back?
Hold on.
Rashad Bateman's always injured. By the way, just give me a second. I'm going to put my bowl in the sink, but I'll be right back.
Yeah. Some other things, though. Watson and Kareem Hunter active. Gibbs is in. Vita Vea's in for Tampa. Marlon Humphrey's in, and so is Odafe Owe.
That leaves the sorry to interrupt, but this leaves the secondary very vulnerable because you take out Jerry Jacobs, you got Brian Branch, and then after that it's Will Harris, Khalil Dorsey, Chase Lucas, Stephen Gilmore.
It's looking more and more favorable for the Ravens at this point. I'm still standing by the Lions.
The Ravens. The Ravens.
Wait, what happened?
The Ravens.
But the Giants thing is actually interesting too. You look at the inactives. Did you just read them? Jacob posted them all.
Yeah, it's Daniel Jones, Dory Jackson, JMS, Evan Neal, Matt Parrott, Jordan Riley, Andrew Thomas.
Okay, you're gonna have to call Joe Thomas out of retirement to block for you today. The Hall of Famer. That's what you're gonna need.
Oh, they got Justin Pugh off the couch.
And he actually blocked pretty
team
well,
going.
so.
Justin Pugh, straight off the couch.
Love how he's got it. I love it, Alex.
I love it. Bailey Zapp's back as the backup quarterback today. Will Greer's the emergency. Malik Cunningham is now inactive. Juju Smith-Schuster
they cut Greer after he went MIA.
Patriots.
He did go MIA. I forgot about that.
I was about to say, I thought they cut him after he went MIA. But...
No.
Clown.
Juju is out today for the Patriots, so he's inactive. He will not. He's a no-go. Let's see if anybody else. Charles Harris for the Lions, a defensive end, out.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked the Ravens.
And Alec Pierce is in for the Colts today, the wide receiver. Anything else I can grab real quick with some other stuff? I know I don't want basketball news. Go F yourself. Let's see.
Bills, Pats.
And I think that's it. I mean, everything else is pretty notable. You guys are pretty much aware of it. And the other news they have right now is that the Cardinals are going to take their time with Murray coming back from ACL surgery, and Jerry Jeudy is now openly referenced a possible trade this week, and teams are calling on him, one of those teams being the Indianapolis Colts.
We talked about that on your show.
We did. I told you that was the team. I heard it from literally 2 weeks ago.
Off topic,
it was going to be the Colts, who have been calling since the offseason, by the way. Since the offseason, they've been talking about this with the Broncos. Nothing ever advanced, but now it's serious.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure this was true. So there's two things. Number one, he's talking about blocking for the Giants thing. Well, we did do the O-line wheel last Monday. So there's that. Number two,
I made a line.
What was I going to say? There was a quote. I think Judy said it. I think he did. Hopefully it wasn't.
It was for Steve Smith, right?
No, it wasn't him. It could be a fake. So I'm just putting this disclaimer out there. He said, sometimes you don't get your reps when your QB is not doing his job, but the O-line's not blocking. I don't remember specifically.
He did. He did say
said
it.
that.
I remember
exactly.
that
So I'm not wrong.
He said it.
So I'm not wrong. But
he said it. He's done with the team. He wants off. Every comment he's making is trying to get his way out. He wants a new change of scenery, and I don't blame him. That team is so bad.
I think Armin would. I was gonna do the wheel of the Mets bullpen. Or there was something we had for baseball related that we said, and I don't remember what it is now. I have to go back and look for the next wheel.
Yeah, we have to dive in. But John, you any more fantasy
La-
advice?
Last player, and guys, he's owned in 60% of ESPN leagues, but he's pretty much awful. He's the 21st best tight end, David Njoku. Target share only 12.8%. He has 0 targets downfield or in the red zone. So it's not like they even go big with him or go in the red zone with him. Last 4 or 5 games, he's finished as worse than a tight end 19. So I know the Colts haven't been the best against tight ends, but David Njoku has just been bleh. That's the best way I could describe it.
He's not good. He's not bad. He's been bleh. But
no,
also,
bleh means bad. That's a meh
Well-
means okay. Bleh means disgusting.
well, that's more of betting, Jacob. That's more of like the over
More
under.
betting, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a couple things for you guys. Some more news. Derwin James, who tweaked his ankle on Thursday, did not participate on Friday. He's literally a game time decision today, but it's more specifically from Diana Rossini. The Giants are not expected to move Barkley before the
saw that.
deadline. Per sources, face the organization expressed a desire to stay in New York. That just came out 20 minutes ago. They are not going to move Barkley. It's not intended to happen. And they're saying, apparently, let's see. Something to watch with the Rams if you got bets on them. Keep an eye on Matthew Stafford and what's going on with him. Supposedly, he's dealing with an aggravated hip injury. It's not considered serious, but their training staff is constantly monitoring and conditioning him to try and make him go out there. He's having a hard time throwing, so keep an eye on that too. Again, if he's having a hard time throwing, you're probably going to see him go more to the run game today, which is led by Darrell Henderson, and Kyron Williams is out on IR. So who's the other person?
Zach Evans and Royce Freeman.
Yeah.
Royce Freeman, yeah. They said Freeman and Henderson are going to get the bulk of the reps today.
Zach Evans too. He was a 6th round pick, I think, for them.
I think so, yeah.
Pick.
And there's also another thing about Philly. I know you Giants fans don't like to hear about this, but it's something you got to note. Philly is looking to make some additions on defense after they suffered a handful of injuries in the defensive backfield, specifically targeting a safety. To what I know, and I'm telling this as a random source I've got that's independent, he can be trusted 70% of the time. 70. And I mean that. Like, that's a real statistic. 70% of the time, supposedly it's for Kareem Jackson on Denver.
I think I've seen that.
Kareem Jackson going to Philly is a possibility. That's who they're looking at the moment.
Let's see.
Huh.
But we have the betting, and it's not just Mike. I'm not gonna. I'll let John speak for his own advice. It's not just Michael Mayer in fantasy. It's him in a player prop. John.
Welcome last week, guys, on the best bets. Hold up. Before I go into it, I got to respect my man Socks. Got to respect my man Socks because he's entered the chat and he has a fantasy question for me.
Oh, what's up, Socks?
Latavius Murray or AJ Dillon? I have AJ Dillon and he's been on riding pine all year, but I'll say this about Latavius Murray. He's kind of touched into the James Cook snaps a little bit.
Damian Harris is IR.
Right. But last week was Murray's first game with like more than 35 yards. So I don't know how you want to, stash that or, play that. But he's also seen more red zone opportunities than Cook. And then I'll say this about AJ Dillon because I'm waiting for the right running back to come so I could drop Dillon for that. But, Jones has been, questionable with health. So that's why I've kept on to Dillon. It was his best week last week, 20 touches, 76 yards. So, but the issue is he doesn't force a lot of guys to miss tackles. He's 43rd in that, and he's 42nd in yards per contact. So if you hit him, he's pretty much going to the ground. And he's supposed to be a power running back. So I would say, though, if Aaron Jones is out officially, I would play Dillon. But if he's not, then I'd play Latavius Murray. That's my opinion. If anyone has any objection to that one,
You can continue.
but
I don't think I disagree now.
Jacob saying I trust John's advice over Luker's. Damn. Last week,
Just
3
throwing
of 4.
shots.
3 of 4.
I will be right back.
I only lost. Of course, I lost on the bet that I argued with Brian by a point. because they took a safety. That's such crap. Come on.
Listen, man, I had some bad bets. Last week.
The reasoning was great behind it, but they freaking had a safety that by an extra point
Screwed them
took a
so
plus
bad.
3, lost by 4. That's just the life of it is sometimes. But here we go. All right.
I'm still trying to log in my DraftKings account. It won't let me. What's going on here? I'm not broke. Let's go. Come on. I didn't lose all my money yet.
All right. For best spread bet, I looked at the board this week, right? I looked at it a lot yesterday. I made these picks yesterday, right?
Yes.
Chargers, Chiefs. You know, this is great now. This is actually great because what I did, you can, so I like the Chargers right now in Bet MGM. Their Chargers are at a plus 6.5 at minus 115 odds. I took them at plus 5.5, and here's why. I got a question for y'all. Did the Chargers or Chiefs really change a whole lot from last year in terms of personnel and coaching?
Like a couple rookies, really, and then
Right.
a little bit of a skill position player shakeup. That's really it.
Right. But it wasn't anything too major with philosophies or knowing these teams. Well, these two teams obviously know each other well. Division rivals. Division rivals they tend to be closer than not. Both games last year were decided by 3 points. I think 5.5 is way too much. I don't think the Chargers are going to win it, but I think they'll definitely cover the spread. You can literally get them at 6.5 now as well. So the line jumped up. So I might be a little screwed possibly, but nevertheless, I still think it's a good play. And it doesn't, you don't need the Chargers to win. Remember, the Chiefs are, I'm sorry, I was reading Armin's comment. That's pretty funny. He said, Alex, I DM you both my bets on our bonus bets and everyone else. Please bet responsibly. We are not responsible for your bets winning or losing. I am not responsible. There you go, Armin. Gold. You're already in the book for a good reason, Armin.
The gold star.
I gave it to him and Afram this week. But nevertheless, these two teams always play each other close. I'm pretty sure the Chargers even won one game last year, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact that they're at 5.5, really concerning. And I think it's because the Chargers kind of lost on their last game on primetime football on Monday night. So I think the public has a negative view of them. So I really like them covering here. All right, guys, the best money line bet. We literally previewed this game. We literally previewed it. I don't care about the injuries. I don't care. The Lions are for real, okay?
Okay.
The Lions are for real. And here's why I really like the Lions here, because number one, the quarterback edge, Alex mentioned it, not just the name, but the production has been there. Jared Goff has been phenomenal. Like, when I tell you phenomenal, he has been absolutely phenomenal. And I know the Lions' second straight road game, I get that, right? So I get there could be some regression. I get it. But you're at a plus 135 odds with them on BetMGM. That's what I had them at. But I'm going to take a look to see. Now it jumped to plus 130. So actually lowered it. So it lowered a little bit, which might tell you something. So I got them at a plus
because of the injuries,
135.
definitely. Them ruling out a couple guys.
Yeah, probably. But now they're at a plus 130. That's still plus money, though. That's still good value to get them. And, I got to say it, but, with Jared Goff, he's poised, probably the most efficient football. And their offensive line, despite the defense they have, their offensive line is one of the better ones in the league. So I just think this game should be more of a pick'em. And I really like the value at a plus 135 because the Ravens are favored by 3. And I'm like, that's a lot, man. For a game that's like neck and neck, like I really think it should be a pick'em. And I really like the value here. All right. Here's my best total bet, and I'm going to check the line to see if it moved at all. I got the Steelers-Rams under at 44. It did not move. It's still at a 44. It's been solid in hitting that all week, in my opinion, unless I missed something earlier. But you can get it at minus 110 odds, and here's why I like it. Well, for the Steelers, right, does anyone really see the Steelers scoring more than 2 touchdowns this game?
No.
With the way their offenses looked?
Not even close.
So even by that logic, right? As you know what, I'll even do the numbers here. I'll see, go through every game they've played. So hold up, let me just go through every game so far. Okay. So essentially, right, since what was week 1 was against the Niners, right? They scored 7, then they scored 26. Remember, they had a few defensive touchdowns. So their offense didn't score 26. Then they had 23. Then they had 6, and they had 17. They really have probably the worst offense in the league, in my opinion, right now. And it really has to do with Matt Canada. But here's why I'm picking the under in this game. Not to say the Rams can't score, but the biggest issue for the Rams is their offensive line. What does the Steelers' defense do really well? Rush the passer. So you combine those two things, I still think, and it's funny, I still think the Steelers are going to win an ugly game here. I know there's like a lot of money on the Rams, but I think they can pull it out, and they're like, and I think you could see whether this can go two ways. Whether the Rams completely prove me wrong, this game could go 30-12, and it'll still hit the under 44. Or this game might have a really low scoring, like 17-14 style. So I really do like that under pick there. Another one you guys could have done, which I was very tempted to take, and but the issue is now the line moved by 1.5. You could have got the Colts Browns at under 41. The line is now 39.5. So that dropped, and people are the books are realizing that you should probably not take that under anymore because that's a very low total. But go ahead.
I'm going to correct Jacob really quick because he mentioned something about the money thing. Shouldn't the money have gone up because the injury's not down? No, the injuries are on the Detroit side. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It should have went up. You're right. Yeah, he's right.
No,
because it went from 135 to 130, which is showing it's more favoring the Lions, even though the guys just got hurt.
Well, it's still at plus 130.
So it is still. So I mean, it just drops after the injury comes out. Though. That's what doesn't make sense.
You're still at great value, and again, the Ravens money line is minus 155. That's not that really good of value.
Yeah.
And my favorite player prop. You guys go to Prize Picks for this. Ready? Receiving yards. Michael Mayer 23 and a. Oh my God! It jumped. I might have gotten a steal, boys. Michael Mayer was originally at 21.5 receiving yards. Now you can get him up to 23.5. I'd still take it. We explained why. I honestly think. Does anyone not see Michael Mayer not being a big part of the offense?
I see it. He's probably going to get some decent yardage at minimum, like at least 20 yards.
Like
at least
all I'm really asking for is like 2 or 3 first down catches. I think he can easily hit it. And it's not like, I know they don't have the best quarterback. Like the Raiders are facing the Bears.
Yes.
I don't think either team is good, but I'll tell you this, neither defense is good. So it's not a game I would bet on, but I really do like the player prop there.
Yeah, I'm currently looking through a couple other ones I'm analyzing right now.
I also another one I liked. I like the Colts at plus 3.5 at a minus 115 odds. That's just because, and I get it, the Browns should beat the crap out of them, but the Colts have won. Like they've been competitive in some games. I know Jacksonville has kicked them to the curb, right? They're division rivals, right? So you didn't want that, but let's not forget, right? They have not done a bad job. I mean, you got stomped by Jacksonville. They beat the Texans, who are much better than expected. So they beat the Texans. They beat Baltimore in overtime. They lost in overtime to the Rams. They beat the Titans by a score. So other than Jacksonville, they've kept every game very close. So I do like the points there. Again, it's 3.5. You can get them. I'm looking at other ones that aren't too shabby. Trying to see if there's a sneaker that I missed, but
can I give you guys a couple that I put in just now?
Sure.
So if you guys don't, I follow one of the best bettors I found on Twitter. He's actually helped me win some decent money, so I'm riding with him again. Cody Brown Bets. If you guys don't follow him up on Twitter. He put out his 3 bets for this week. He's got a flyer bet, which is like the risky one. Okay. He's got the team parlay he does, and then he's got a best bet. His best bet this week is Saquon Barkley 50+ rushing yards parlayed with Cooper Kupp 75+ receiving. That's the safe one. So if you bet 50, you get like 93 on DraftKings.
Okay.
And if you go, and so it's still in the minus area, but that's where he's at. And for reference, this guy is good because his last 2 team parlays he cashed on all of them.
Okay.
So this team parlay this week, which I just put in, he's got Buffalo Bills on the alternate spread minus 5.5 against the Patriots.
Well,
The Seahawks money line and the
hold
Chiefs
up.
money line.
There's you said the alternate money line, right?
Alternate spread.
Because the bill, like the original spread right now is 7.5 for the Bills at a minus 115. And that went down actually. They were favored at 8.5.
Yeah, so he said to do a minus 5.5 alternate spread on that. Seahawks money line and the Chiefs money line as your parlay. $30 down will get you 82. But this is through Caesars. He uses Caesars. And he also threw in a little random one. He doesn't tell anybody to do it, but this is what he's got. For National Tight Ends Day yesterday, he put out a bet, and he's doing it for today. The 3 best tight ends playing today, he said he put a player to score a touchdown down for each of them, which is Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and Dallas Goedert. The odds on that is plus 1679.
Andrews, Dallas
Goedert, and
like
Kelce.
Goddard. I could see all those happening. Yeah, that's not a bad one.
So if you hit that, that's plus 1679. And his flyer, which is a plus 910, are as follows. Mark Andrews over 51.5 receiving yards today.
Okay.
Christian Watson for Green Bay over 51.5.
I like that one for him.
Josh Jacobs over 23.5 receiving yards. And for Rashee Rice, oh, wait, that's a little mixed up. He got the teams wrong, but Rashee Rice over 38.5 receiving today.
I like those picks. They all have favorable matchups.
And if it happens, it's a plus 910. You're going to get a decent payout. So those are his bets. Follow responsibly if you want. If you want a tail, go for it. But again, like we said, we're not responsible for whatever happens.
Seriously. I do stress that. Don't be Luka. No, I'm just kidding, Luka. Guys, by the way, don't attack Luka. All right, Luka's a very good bettor too. He's just learning.
He's learning.
He's learning. He's part of the dark side.
Yes. Who just got on the list?
Nobody. I was messing around.
Oh, he's clowning around.
I mean, it's funny. You know what we need? Whenever we do that, we need a meme of the SpongeBob clip. Patrick, write that down. Write that down. We need that clip anytime we
the tic-tac-toe game.
Anytime somebody tells me Baker Mayfield sucks, Brian, write that down. I gotta do it.
Jacob, Jonathan Taylor is active.
Okay, Jonathan Taylor is a go.
So, I actually just texted our good friend Sean because Brian was talking about earlier the whole Steeler reaction on Najee Harris. So he goes, if he doesn't get his fucking shit together, Jaylen Warren will be the starter soon.
Jaylen Warren should be the starter at this point. Come on now.
I have him starting at flex.
Yes, sir.
That might be an interesting pickup for me. At some point, maybe in the league. I don't know.
Okay, receiving yards.
Any other betting thoughts?
Just be smart.
Well, also be responsible. Be very responsible.
We are not professionals, people. We are not professionals.
No.
Even the ones who are professionals aren't professionals.
That's true. That is 100% true.
Professionals lose.
Yeah.
We all do.
What is a flex?
Oh, a flex is it could be a wide out running back. It's an extra, or it could be a tight end. It's like an extra piece that starts in fantasy.
Yeah. They're not quarterbacks. They're not defenses. They're not kickers. So, unless you're in sleeper, where the sleeper leagues have 2 quarterbacks, but
I had that league last year.
Yeah, I had it my first year. I won, and then the second year I did terrible. I was like the worst team. But I'll just repeat once again. Any final betting thoughts?
I'm all out.
I'm just looking for the things I'm looking for right now. Again, like I keep saying, if you're 21 and over and you're available to bet in your state, please bet responsibly. Don't make any mistakes. Again, we are not professionals at this. Neither of the professionals, no matter what they want to market, they're going to have misses too. We're going to have misses. In the end, go with what you feel is best. That's
yes.
Jacob. What did Jacob say? If John was a
John was a
professional
professional
gambler, he wouldn't be
gambler. He
living on
wouldn't be living on
161st.
161st Street.
That's crazy. That's
There's always
wild.
this
Okay.
anecdote thing that that John lives at Yankee Stadium, and he's giving Brian Cashman information or whatnot.
Sure I
Oh
am.
my
Sure I
gosh.
am. Sure I am. Yes.
Yeah,
You call.
but well, I guess we just start wrapping up the show. 2 hours 34 minutes. A pretty solid
bad.
show. Made it. Let me start with Brian. What's your final thoughts? And as you do that, I'm going to put your YouTube and Twitch links in.
Thank you so much. We're going to have another morning show tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. I know my hours are like really inconsistent sometimes, but let me tell you, my work schedule really messes with me. But 11 a.m. is going to be the time tomorrow for the morning show. I do it every weekday morning on Twitch and YouTube. If you're watching it on Twitch, you're probably going to have a better chance of like really interacting. But I do have access to both chats, so I can read everything that way. But again, in terms of NFL today, after my big win last week with all those games, I'm really hoping that I can really strike again this week. So I'll just do a quick rundown of what I got to close out. For today's game, I have it written down from Friday's show. So before all the injury reports came out, I've got Detroit over Baltimore. I've got Tyson Bagent leading Chicago to a win over the Raiders because Josh McDaniels will find a way to take himself out of the game. Cleveland beating Indianapolis with an injured Deshaun Watson. Buffalo winning today over the Patriots. I've got Washington pummeling the Giants. I've got Atlanta beating Tampa Bay because I really was looking through the numbers. I said Atlanta's defense is so good and Tampa Bay's offense is playing in the can right now, and it's arguably Atlanta's offense has been better. The Rams I have winning today as well. I've got Seattle winning. I've got Green Bay winning and beating the Broncos. I've got Kansas City winning today as well. And to close out tonight's game, Philly winning. And I'll have my Monday night prediction tomorrow on the morning show. But right now, again, the hope is we have another week similar to last week, 12-3. But again, it's always great being on here, being able to talk this any chance I get about these game previews. It's a lot of fun. So again, thank you guys for having me on. It's I really enjoyed it today.
So we got Armin's bets.
Uh-oh.
So we'll start here.
Here he is with the touchdown stuff again.
Anytime touchdown, Brian Robinson, Zach Moss, Zach Evans, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, and also for Bears Raiders, Josh Jacobs, 35+ yards, anytime touchdown, Komet Mayer.
Yo, he's taking some risky stuff, man. I feel like Armand is the type when he bets, and then you can tell me if I'm wrong, Armand. You're the type when you bet where you put a little bit of money down, you just throw up a prayer, unlikely parlay, hoping you hit it luckily and just get that big, big money. I feel like that's how you bet. I really do.
John,
Even free, tell me if I'm wrong.
No, thank you everyone for joining us. We thank Mr. Brian for taking time out of his busy schedule because I know that man is working like a dog. But nevertheless, I'm glad you enjoyed the fantasy advice betting. Let's pray it works, and remember, be responsible. But come on, Alex, your Giants can win. Go Giants!
I mean, I'm not rooting for the tank. I hope they win, but if they don't, then that's just another loss for a draft.
We'll get them on the tank soon, boys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But we appreciate y'all being here. Like, comment, subscribe to all the good stuff. Tomorrow night we'll have the Poison the Apple podcast. We got a few streams in a row, actually. So after that is Tuesday. If the MLB playoffs isn't decided yet, because I don't think they'll have and if not, Tuesday is not going to be a day we'll stream. Wednesday we got the Knicks opener, so be tuned for that, and then Thursday night football, and then more from that way. For those bets, yes, because they're bonus bets. It was
okay, yeah, that's different. All right, I get it.
So it plays off the bonus bets, but we appreciate you guys and enjoy the rest of your NFL Sunday. Peace out.